Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sad Poets Doorstep Club. I am Tom, I am your host, and I am really excited for this month's display of poetry. I couldn't think of what to call it then. It's a display of poetry. It's wonderful. Anyway, we've got a massive, fully packed lineup full of really great queer performers here today to celebrate LGBTQ History Month. It's going to be great. And I am going to go with a little poem first before I bring up our first performer. So this is a new piece that I wrote very recently in a workshop. It's not really been worked on that much. I got some nice feedback, which was nice. And it's called This House Is Not in Order. This shell is not fit for use. Hermit crabs pass it over when searching for a new home. I do not blame them. I would pass it over myself if it didn't follow me. Everywhere. On a good day, the damage is under the surface. I can walk around my flat without carefully placing every step. Things are orderly, tidy to a point. I don't have to panic over where my keys are. I can use a bowl or a plate with no fuss. On a good day, I can live how I was meant to. On the bad days, I don't want to talk about the bad days. Thank you. That was a poem. Thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, welcome everyone to the Sad Poets Doorstep Club, our first performer tonight. He is a poet, rapper, and co-founder of Switchblade Society. His debut pamphlet is available from Analog Submission Press. Please go buy it. He's amazing. Stream his music by searching Bodies UK on all platforms. Please welcome Will Stevenson.
Thank you very much, Tom. It was an absolutely lovely introduction. So I'm going to read like two from the pamphlet to shift them. And then I'm going to read a longer one that I wrote during lockdown after reading about the fabulous poet Bob Kaufman. So I'm going to, two from the pamphlet, one long one. Okay. So this first one's called Fireside. She didn't leave the fireside when the crackles expired. She ate at black rock till the flickers burst and scolded and burnt her face. Lay pointing out the dark in the room where the echoes all lay until eventually the echo morphed into a new shape. Shifted between faces, memories were never replaced, but they stayed pouring at the logs for days and for days. Thank you. Another short one, and then we'll go into the new one. Shifting that camera all about. Apologies if you can hear my dog in the background as well.
Don't apologise for that. We want to see the front.
Okay, Boy King. Boy King. His kingdom stretches from floor to ceiling. He's 5 right now, but he's growing. Boy King, King Boy. One day to be a man. He runs this house alongside his queen mother. She administers love, milkshakes, and chip butties to the man who would be. Every now and then, the loneliness gets kind of busy. Running a city from a bedroom knows he earns now, contributes nothing but love. She looks at him with adoration, sees the engravings of a former lover's face in place on this chubby would-be. When he cries, the same tears take their journey that his did when he said, "I'll always love you." And should you stumble, should your feet forget their footing, glance upon him and you will see me. There you go, that's the pamphlet. Salford. It's available from Analog Submission Press, and it'll only cost you £4, less than a £5, and we're all stuck inside still. You got nowhere else to go, so buy it before the pubs open. This one's sort of a long form one. It's a bit of an adventure for me into some more sort of abstract poetry that doesn't have so much of a narrative, which is not something I've had that much practice with. So let me know if it's any good. Alternatively, let me know if I should stick to the narrative stuff, because it might well be the case. Thanks for thanks for having me, Tom, and everyone here. It's lovely to share the stage with you all. The virtual stage, it's strange, isn't it? But yeah, definitely we've got some amazing poets coming up this evening. So yeah, thanks for having me on first as well. It's always a weird one when you open up. So I've yet to get a title for this. So we'll just kick right into it. Feeding in the dirt, penciled outlines of the before, always the before, never us, never now, never how, always why. Snapped thigh bones poke out of tracksuit bottoms in the mud hill. Violated unknowingly, observed casually. Disgust, mirth, foaming at the mouth. Disabused and disinterested, violence or vibrance, earthquakes in shop fronts, blue shorts, unironed, purposelessness, possession, pushed to flog pencils and Ritalin, the gamut of speech daunts me. And I wonder if I'm speaking or talking or waving my lips, voiceless but pretending. I think of Kaufman and the weight of that Jewish name. I think of Bob and of Andi, of silence and subversion. I wonder whether classics feel classic when they are written. I wonder if the poet smirked like I do when I figure out a rhyme or a rhythm. I wonder how the unspoken did it, how the black women whose whole oeuvre was stolen did not shout themselves louder. I wonder if I wrote with no applause, would I shoot myself faster? I suppose that's why I'm a stage writer. I hope the villain is tripping in heaven. I wonder who'll write his autobiography, whether it gets treated with white dignity, if it arrives with liner notes and references. I wonder if we must prostrate ourselves at the tomb of knowledge and cry out apology for straying from the light. I wonder how long the light remains the light, how the name Walt Whitman just came to be so perfect, fully formed. If we saw his work through the lens of Tash Dixon from Salford, would we revere the same? If the spools of reverential pain have been pulled tight, if the right words have been stolen, and should we all just pack it in the pencil case, right, and throw it in the fire, a light to keep warm tonight? It'd sure as hell be more practical than sitting on a Zoom call, spitting poetry at you, sighing for the voiceless herring, beak mouthing his good morning. If the herring was deaf too, would he know that his voice had broken the morning? Is his scream art's modern, unparalleled honesty? If we could just translate into textuality in the name that we give to those privileged to read forms for a living, unworthy of those who toil and toil and foil and toil to afford toilet breaks with toilet roll, in short supply at home on the dole when we just want to watch a Marvel film. Do we want this? Did we ask for it? Is it wizard or witch? Do we contemplate or do we just sit? For now, I will sit and stare at brick walls forevermore, echoing the raven fall with a bottle of Echo Falls, the pint of water spilled right over. But the whiskey next to me is stuck on repeat. I ran out of apple juice, but my spirit bottle is eternal. I wonder how long we have left on this earth. I sit and stare at brick walls and I toast another day because at least we've got one more. Nice one. All right, thank you. That's me. I won't keep you anymore. There's much talented people coming on. So yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Will. That was a fantastic opener. Please drop the link to your pamphlet on the live stream on Facebook, please.
Thank you. I will.
Right, next up. This next poet is a queer poet and photographer from Newcastle. They are the poetry editor from Periwinkle Lit Mag and co-host of the Choose Poetry, Choose Life open mic. Please welcome Andi Talbot.
Woo! Hi. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I just want to quickly say the line that Will said about whiskey. I mean, I don't like whiskey, but he said whiskey on repeat. That was awesome. Also, check that out. Get one of them. Yeah, no, it's awesome, dude. Yeah, cool. So I've thrown together some poems quickly. I think I might have done maybe one, maybe two of these before here. so I apologize. Yeah, I'm going to start. This is called Slouch. Could it be the eyes? Some newly discovered shade of blue, they are piercing me, and finally I feel seen. I stumble through my order, my tongue tripping over every single syllable, and I'm not quite sure it's got anything to do with the fact I've been day drinking rum like it's going out of style. Could it be the nails? Painted on in public between tending to the pumps and pouring pints for the parched patrons, I envy them. It's such a power move, and they need to know I feel this way. If you'll allow me to get slightly off topic, the music in this place is always memorable. It's the only reason I have Shazam downloaded to my phone, and before tonight was the only reason I ever returned. Block Party, Manson, Hendrix, The Doors, the list goes on. I don't know. Maybe it was the company, maybe it was the alcohol, maybe it was my mood, or maybe I was just feeling it. The music in here always did something to me. Between every round, I would talk my friend's ear off about it, about the music and those nails and those eyes and that smile. Until eventually, I find the courage, likely Dutch, but courage nonetheless. And I find my feet, and I find myself at the bar, and I find myself finally telling him, and the way it lifts. We slip into casual conversation, and the night rolls on. Thanks. Yeah, so that's a true story, ish. It is about a barman in Glasgow. He was cute as fuck, and I wrote a poem about him. Yeah. This next one's called. Okay, sorry, I just got a text about a KFC. Sorry. That's never happened before. Okay, this is called Nothing to Report. The holidays were quiet, just us alone with the animals. Snow came, then went, then came again. Christmas was spent entirely sober, despite my best efforts. Lately, the taste just does nothing for me. It's been 23 days and I don't miss it. Time away from the screen has served me well. I don't mind walking now. In fact, I'd almost say I enjoy it. When walking, I find it always helps to have a purpose. It's the same with most things. My purpose currently hangs around my neck, carries no weight, and only serves to lighten the load. One shot at a time, I find myself again. Piece by piece, it keeps my hands busy until they make their way back to the page. Thank you. Yeah, that was Christmas. Like, I was looking forward to having a break from work, and I enjoyed it, but I couldn't get anything written. I didn't write for about a month and a half, 2 months. I got a camera for Christmas, which, yeah, ended up in the sea. Those waves come fast. I replaced it, so it's all good. Yeah, anyway, this next one doesn't have a title. And it's a little sort of, I don't know, tongue-in-cheek. It's not super serious. Except for the bit about my ass, that is definitely serious. I'll just read it. It's always the boyfriend hoodie, or I sleep in his t-shirts. Never check out my ass in her skirt, or her dress looks so good on me, and I wish that would change. Because my ass is great, especially in that dress she has, the one with the flowers on it, and I only have one pair of boy jeans that show it off. Thanks. That was just short and sweet. Bit like me, I'm not that tall. Okay, so I'm gonna have to turn. How long am I good for time? Okay, cool. I'm gonna turn my camera off. Sorry to take this away. I'm just gonna do one from my notes because it's not long, but it's too long to write out. It's called Nostalgia. It's still a work in progress. I'm nostalgic for those brief moments we had between the fights and the silence that probably weren't as brief as I recall them being, but it hurts less if I remember it this way. The good times were good, and sometimes they were great, like the night in the house with the tent and the bowls. Don't ask. The bad times were bad. And some of the lowest moments in my life, like the night with the broken windshield, or waking up in a bath fully clothed, or the night you got so drunk you literally couldn't stand up and had to crawl across the street to make it into the house. But mostly times were silent. Either went by too fast or too slow, but always without appreciation. I'm sure we did the best we could, though really, I know we didn't. But it hurts less if I remember it this way. Thank you. Have I got time for one more?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, so this is, like I was on about before, that I couldn't really write anything over Christmas. So this is a poem about not really being able to create, a bit about writer's block, but like notes that we make that never really develop, or, you know, ideas that we have that we don't quite get down in time. You know, like you're in bed, you think of something and it's like you fall asleep, but you're sure you're going to remember it in the morning, but you never do, even though your phone's right there, and you just don't write it down. Or having so many things on the go, so many works in progress that they're not really progressing anywhere. Anyway, it goes like this. I'm tired of starting things that I never finish. Thank you. Yeah, that's me. I'm dead.
Thank you, Andy. That last one.
Thanks for having me.
That last
Was
one.
that all right? Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, no,
Thank you.
I have this problem. I'm not sure what it is, but every time I don't write for at least a week, I'm convinced I'm never going to write ever again.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that I'm done.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. So like that silly little one that I did at the end there, I wrote that last week, or the 15th, whenever that was, this month. 'Cause time now doesn't make sense. But I haven't written since, so it's like I'm never going to write again. Like,
yep, we're done.
All the stuff I've written, it's everything that's ever going to happen. Yeah. No, thank you for having me, though.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for coming. All right, next up, our next poet is an award-winning LGBTQ plus poet, producer, and events coordinator based in Derby. His first collection, Genre Fluid, was published by Big White Shed in June 2019. He's a new voice to the Sad Poets Doorstep Club stage. Please welcome Dan Weber!
Oh, what an amazing introduction. Thank you. A new voice and very glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I always hate that introduction. She asks me, what is my greatest achievement during lockdown? And I sit and think. Wearing the only formal shirt that still fits, buttoned down to just above the waist because the fabric won't stretch round any further. Sorry, did I say this fits? I lied. This is a job interview. Everybody lies, and it's on Zoom. And this project won't actually happen under current restrictions anyway, so what does it matter what I actually say? She asks me, what is my greatest achievement during lockdown? And I gather my thoughts. Jogging shorts, which have never jogged a day in their life, digging into my skin, thankfully outside of view of the computer screen. This interviewer is the only woman who has ever seen inside my bedroom. My teenage bedroom, in my parents' house. This angsty red and black sex dungeon without the sex. If these walls could talk, they would have nothing to say. I need this job. I need this job, even if it doesn't happen. I need something creative to get me out of bed in the morning. She asks me, what is my greatest achievement during lockdown? And I say, honestly, exercising every day and still managing to put on weight. Next question. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I should explain. When I say thank you, you haven't got to clap. But if you would, I would feel 10 times better about myself. Thank you. Oh. You're very kind. Before we go any further, I think it's important to give a content warning. my poetry is a bit shit. Hope we can swear on social media. One from the vaults. This is called Homo on the Rocks. I'm at a house party, playing catch-up, starting to feel the effects of a few cocktails, and I set sail back to the bar. I'm stood, looking over the booze, trying to choose, when this guy next to me says, "Hey, mate. Mate. Oh, mate. Mate. You don't want that drink. That drink is a gay drink." Now, by this point, I've had a few sherries, and I'm feeling pretty merry, perhaps a touch more unsteady than I care to admit. But I reckon I can still hit this idiot, if it comes to it. "A gay drink?" I reply, manic twitch in my eye, and I see the guy's face just drop. And before anyone can stop me, I say, "Do you know exactly who you're talking to? I'm Grinder's finest. The only homosexual in the room. And for you to assume that my choice of drink in any way reflects my sexuality is a travesty. It's 2021. Where have you been? And what have you done? And what can I do to help you overcome this belief that gay means bad or inferior in any way?" It's sad, really. He apologizes for any offense. And I spend the next 20 minutes sat outside, furiously texting my friends. In the morning, he may not remember. Liquor loosens lips. But I hope before the next time he opens his mouth, he thinks. Thank you. Oh, well remembered, everybody. I have one poem left. If you have enjoyed my work, my name is Dan Webber. If you haven't, I'm Jason Manford. So please tweet accordingly. I have got a book. It's called Genre Fluid. It's a £5. If you'd like one, drop me a message. If you'd like one but can't afford a £5, please do drop me a message still, because we will sort something out, I'm sure. Because especially at the minute, it's not about the money. It's about getting the work out there, as I'm sure we're all going to be doing tonight. This is my final poem. I hope you enjoy it. At the Odeon on Birmingham New Street, we are watching Frozen 2. A spur-of-the-moment decision made on a hungover Sunday afternoon. I am with my boyfriend of 10 months. We sit at the back, hand in hand, laughing because we're the only adults there without children. And halfway through the film, it hits me that after hashtag give Elsa a girlfriend, Disney might have actually listened. Choking back tears, I imagine children looking up at the big screen, seeing their heroine end credit scene, embracing a member of the same sex. True love's kiss. A powerful message to all the boys in the Elsa dresses, to anyone who ever felt out of place as a child. A statement that no amount of placards in the playground can halt progress, that we are here and we are valid. When I saw the Love, Simon trailer in the cinema, I cried. Struggled to explain to my best friend sat beside me how important it was, and how 10 years ago, a film with a homosexual teenage male lead would not have been made in the mainstream. And if I'd seen that film when I was 16, I might not have been so afraid of myself or how I was feeling. I choose to believe in my lifetime there will be a gay Disney princess. And it won't be done for effect. It won't be released in Pride Month to appeal to that elusive queer market. It won't be cut out or dumbed down like Star Wars in China. It'll be front and center. And for the record, it should have been Elsa, deserved to be Elsa. And here's how it should have happened. Oh, spoilers for Frozen 2. Anna, the new queen of Arendelle, sends a message to her sister in the north. Elsa, the fifth spirit, climbs upon her water horse, turns back and says, aren't you coming? Honey Maron smiles. Climbing aboard, she slips her arms around Elsa's waist, and they ride off into the sunset. And because this is Disney, they both live happily ever after. The end. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Woo woo! Absolutely stellar stuff. Thank you so much for coming. That was amazing.
Thank you very much.
I need more Dan Webber in my life.
Not many people say that. Thank you.
I mean, if you read the chat, lots of people are saying it. Trust me.
Oh, I'll have a look and have my glasses on. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. All right, next up. This next poet has been performing comedy poetry around the UK for 10 years at various fringes and festivals, and has 2 collections published by Burning Eye. He has made a few short TV adverts for a certain bank. A joke from one of his shows was listed as one of the funniest of the Edinburgh Fringe. He's been an answer on the TV quiz show Pointless, and in 2020 he was nominated for the Pushcart Prize. Please welcome the Professor of Whimsy, Robert Garnham.
Woo! Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, and to think I almost didn't come along tonight. I've been watching this documentary on TV about behind the scenes at the Cocoa Pops factory, but it'll be on again next week. It's a serial. Oh, hear ye these simpering verses of suburban sensibility, this vile creature, a perverted poet peppering the page with poisonous intent, and a fey wave of the wrist, as if tossing off yet another sordid poem like it means nothing. This loathsome lurker in life's margins. My name is Robert Garnham. Hot, hot surfer dude dancing on the wave. Hot, hot surfer dude, you live a life I crave. Hot, hot surfer dude, you are so very brave. Hot, hot surfer dude, watch out for that walrus. Hot, hot surfer dude, I'd invite you back to my beachfront surf shack, but you probably drip all over the floor. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to do 2 or 3 fairly short poems for you. They don't have titles yet. That one was just called Poem. Now, there's one thing I've always wanted to do, and that's get a song into the Eurovision Song Contest. So I've written a song, haven't got any music, but goes exactly like this. And it's called Poem. I want to live in a little house somewhere in the park. I have to light lots of candles whenever it gets dark. I'd buy myself a little dog just to hear it bark. Woof, woof. I'd invent new grammar and a punctuation mark. Tiddly-om, pom, pom, tiddly-om, pom, pom. And as the winter splinters in, I'd have to light the fire. I'd collect lots of ornaments and things that I admire. I know it's not the sort of life to which you might aspire. It would be just like a church except without the spire. On a monotheistic deity, tiddly-om, pom, pom, tiddly-om, pom, pom. And I would write such poetry, making sure it rhymed. And I would use a stopwatch just to check its pace. It would be a fantasy away from the daily grind. I'd have to cuddle the handyman, I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Tiddly-om, pom, pom, tiddly-om, pom, pom. And did I mention the handyman? We cuddle up in bed. Such a randy handyman, I'd keep him in the shed. And every time I was up for it, oh Fred, I'd call, oh Fred. Although his name was actually Sean, at least he gives good. Tiddly-om, pom, pom, tiddly-om, pom, pom. It doesn't matter what we do, our lives are meaningless. Now but crushing oblivion and eternal hopelessness, and never-ending loneliness, and doubt, and angst, and hatred, and the eternal dichotomy between selfhood and the final and crushing truth that nobody has ever cared for you in the slightest. Tiddly-om, bum, bum, tiddly-om, bum, bum. Thank you very much. Oh. Okay, this next one hasn't got ouchie. I'll do the poem for you. It goes exactly like this. Your eyes look like they're made of slugs. Yes, they are. Your ears are like two piles of sick. Yes, they are. Your breath's as rank as a devil's fart. Your face looks like a big slapped arse. Why the hell did I fancy you? And that was called Toby. So I'm going to finish with this. This is my gay pride poem. I wrote it last year, I think it was, for gay pride, and I love performing it. Bit of LGBT history in there as well. It's called Poem. No title yet. Whew. A tinsel-littered terminus on the greyest grey of days, a gleaming marble concourse under smoke machine haze. Excitement lifts in tight t-shirts, dressing to impress. A train's due in at platform 6. It is the Queer Express. This chuffing, puffing, mother huffing, pumping disco train, gently swaying, high-heeled sashaying, otherwise quite tame. Lip-sync boa, something of a goer, power ballad queens, leather-clad, sexy dad, this transport of my dreams. Everyone is welcome as it thunders down the track. A destiny that's shining bright, the rhythm of the clickety-clack. Clones and drones feel so at home, and big butch bears too. Take a seat on the Queer Express, carriages LGBT and Q. Our history is one of pride and those who dare to stand and fight the law and rise above. Let's shake them by the hand. And now there is sweet freedom sung amid the pumping beat. The rainbow flag flies proud for you. Hop aboard and take your seat. This sequined rocket, this tinsel train, there is no quiet zone. The ultimate community where no one feels alone. I climbed aboard 20 years ago, never again felt like a loner. A sexy hunk in the opposite bunk is giving me a reason to be there. This all-embracing, heart-racing diesel engine chuffer. This laser choo-choo homo loco never will hit the buffer. It's thundering and building speed and passing through the night. For souls in need who feel indeed that now the time is right. There'll be moaners, haters, zealous types, and those who don't agree. This train is there for everyone, and that's what makes us free. The point of life is that we live up to our history. And if you can't be what they want, you might as well just be. The Queer Express is seen by some to be an urban myth. Stand by the tracks on a foggy night and see its glow in the mist. This train exists in every soul who's felt the world's askance. Hop aboard the Queer Express and join this blissful dance. Everybody, welcome aboard. Well, thank you very much. My name has been Robert Garnham, Professor of Whimsy. Thank you so much, and thank you for letting me. Thank you for having me tonight.
Oh, I've gone 3 shades redder from laughing. That was... Oh, I love you so much, Robert. Like, I can't believe I've only heard of you recently. Like, I don't know what's going on in the world that we haven't been in the same place before. But I am definitely happy to have met you. Thank you so much for that set. That was beautiful. Moving swiftly onwards, our next poet is a transgender male poet from Manchester. Raised Church of England and with a background in theological study, they live their life marrying their spirituality and their sexuality. As well as being founding editor of Rigwelter Press and associate editor of 3 Drops from a Cauldron. What the hell is happening to my voice? They're also a slam finalist. Their debut pamphlet, Ampersand, was joint winner of the Indigo Dreams Pamphlet Prize 2017. Please welcome the one and only Jon Kinsman.
I can't believe I've got to follow Robert. What the fuck, Tom? Why have you done this to me? Okay, I'm gonna try something brand new. So no one's ever, only a small handful of people have heard me read this before, I say, remembering my editing group. This is called Transitional Art Forms, and it should probably have a trigger warning for weird, religion-y, sexy, for me. Transitional art forms. 1. Michelangelo, 1475 to 1564. The great artist can't get the breasts right. Anyone would think he never nursed upon a teat. The boy clutches sweet oranges to his bare chest, a pear fat with juice, exotic, strange, costly, and mocking, as he poses beside the marble. He's right. These are too round, too sparse, an afterthought on a chiseled torso that never wept for milk in a woman's flesh. And this boy is not oranges, but miles of vineyards stretched out before the eye, sheets of dripping honeycomb, fresh bread and olive oil. Say, Leonardo painted himself, a clean shave and a woman's shawl, but the smile is unmistakable, and clutch him close. Slip hands beneath the fruit, prise them from his body, let him gasp, watch them tumble, roll beneath the cupboard's gathered dust. Still he laughs, a coy look, retorts, and Michelangelo lay upon his back to paint his Lord. Pope Pius IX, 1846 to 1878. Piss flows from the wound. When God stretched out a hand and carved creation, he made this too. It was the Lord's idea to have the cock. And still man made cloth, stitched sin in the fig's leaves, took a knife to his design. Roll those papal plums between finger and thumb, watch this dutiful mutilation, cardinal desires, iconoclasm. You like them sexless, crying dust, broken boys, those small soft things locked away for only men with self-control to view, to touch. And still the throne demands it. Give us Christian foreskin to rub as relic. Give us manna to suck from the wellspring. Let God come upon us through you. Statues bleeding gold in the path of the chisel. Turn your thumb. Watch Apollo's ritual castration. Grasp the trophy, smooth, beautiful youth. Filth, you say. Insidious idolatry, poison of the eye. He does not flinch, refuses to play Pygmalion. His holiness's jurisdiction does not extend to hell. Jonathan, 2019 to present. The boy studies the masters, learns their tricks. He presses shadows to the cut of his jaw, carves something angular, proud to match the arc of his brow, his broad shoulders, maps out a cleft, fractures his hairline, scatters light across his cheekbone, traces the downward trajectory of his nose into a cherubic pout. He paints in Titian blue, Rembrandt red against his paleness. His eyes fall on hips, on chest, imagines the block before him, waiting to understand his vision in its cold stone. What next? A masterpiece takes years of work, and he is impatient in his wait, his body twisting in its bonds. He weeps, free me from this flesh that my image might take flight. Each day it falls away. The sculptor at the cell bars grinds and loosens a chisel, a file, a scalpel, a prescription, until one fine morning he will see himself at last amidst the dust of what was not. The art is in the scar, knowing what to take away. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Thanks. And from the sublime to the ridiculous, because it is queer History Month here in the UK, and there's lots of different things to talk about when you talk about being queer. So this is called Elegy for a Broken Condom, and a content warning. I don't know. Sunday morning. 3 of us make this pilgrimage, watch you configure the if-then of our genitals like a puzzle box full of spunk. O till operator, who forgives all with $15.99, I commend to you this fallen latex. I know my lines. In your privacy room, my Catholic ancestors betray me when I pray, thank you, Lord, for making my pussy vice-like and bizarrely angled, with pill on tongue, take the proffered cup to cleanse my gums. Temple of medicine, I beg miracles. I bring you boys with heart conditions, philosophers and statisticians, men who pay, who buy extra safe, who fuck like the charge of the Light Brigade. Pharmacist, forgive us our pleasure. Politician, lead us not into legislation. GP, deliver us from fetus. Cross my fingers. Hold my breath. I've read the booklet. When science doesn't know, it makes a guess. Thank you. I've been Jonathan Kinsman. Good night.
Oh, thank you, John. That was fantastic. Oh, brilliant as always. Oh, I just got the news that a friend of mine has just finally got their gig appointment. That's fantastic. After so long they'd given up. That's nice. Just gonna take a second for that one. Anyway, John, I know you had to follow Robert, but guess who has to follow you? Our first headliner of the night. This poet writes poetry specifically to eviscerate the person he used to be. His debut spoken word album, Bob vs. Wisdom, is available on all major music streaming services. I'm fairly certain he's just doing one poem. Please welcome Bob Horton!
Of course, I have to follow John. That's just, of course. Yeah, this is all one poem. I have never performed this before, so apologies in advance. It has a lot of references to my favorite film, Dr. Strangelove. So if you've not seen it, it should still be fine. You should still know what it's about. It carries like a general content warning for human atrocity. So there's mention of things like war and slavery and the environmental crisis, things like that. I'm just gonna launch into it. In the beginning was the word, and the word was bang. And though a vacuum cannot carry sound, the resounding success of the after effects suggest in retrospect that it was big. We don't know who, but somebody spoke the universe into existence with one syllable, 4 characters, and infinite significance. Gravity dragging matter and antimatter into a titanic clash, establishing a framework for spontaneous generation of all things past, present, and future. The entire history of a universe contained within one syllable, bang. And the bang populated what it had created with worlds, infinite worlds, made from the same stardust Sagan said that we were made from. And here's how. The chemical crystals clustered, condensed around a core, generating a spherical circumference we would one day call home, from which the ground spewed gases and masses of atoms congealed into ooze, which the lightning struck like the touch of a god. And something about this possessed some carbonic compounds to begin to consume each other. And this, they hypothesized, was the beginning of us via 4.5 billion years, steered by invisible hands, a grand plan enacted with chaotic abandon. The ooze congealed into cells, draped themselves in membranes, a framework for spontaneous generation of all living things since, all natural things since, coiled into double helices, industrial standards, instruction manuals for life and how to create it, self-replicating, proliferating, populating, arranging cells according to differing levels of creativity, creating diversity. Myriad patterns scattered, it never mattered how you looked, only how you performed under pressure of selection, a right to life if you could survive to reproduce. In truth, It was a utopian framework. It wouldn't last. Time passed and the organisms organized, and we wouldn't mind, but they did it by starting to eat each other. And implicitly written into the system was a clause that would cause a complete ecosystem collapse if they ever stopped eating each other. Suddenly the teeth and claws were red, and so were the queens on that chessboard, chasing impossible paces. The back of the pack had their heels snapped at by cracked whips wielded by the ignominy of extinction. Life sprints and still makes slow progress, attempting to select the best from the exhausted, inherently letting errors emerge to usurp the status quo and grow new phylogenies out of the violence, diversifying into life as we know it and knew it once was. There were once dragonflies at the top of the food chain, sustained on vertebrate prey, conifer forests across the permafrosted South Pole, and there were dinosaurs, 145 million years of dinosaurs, But they, in the manner of all life, came and had their time alive, 145 million years of it, and it was majestic. They are still the most successful terrestrial vertebrate clade, and though it's less terrifying that we Kentucky fry their descendants, they're still successful today, if a little less impressive than when they were dinosaurs. For 145 million years, dinosaurs! But their time was called, like for all of us, by the seeming whim of a benevolent force which sought to install a new dominance from which we would emerge in a new surge of mammalian life, milking it, filching our niche from the small places, rising in defiance of spiraling climates. Ice ages wouldn't dissuade us. We made mammoths with the beat of our warm hearts, and the part that we played in this cabaret was understated until we changed the world that made us. We hacked down trees to please the grains that sustain us. We tamed the beasts, or at least the ones we could eat. We beat back the earth into spaces we could feel safe in, and all the while marveled at the mark that we had made on it, with cave paintings and flint arrowheads, with marble ruins and gold coins, with city skylines and paved roadways, with oil slicks and smoking chimneys, with plastic particles and atom bombs. Bang! Putting the full stop at the end of our own sentence, bringing it all to an unnatural end, ending it as we began, with a bang. At the end was the word, and the word was... But what cheek have we to decry what we create as unnatural? The atoms in the bomb were fashioned in the same astronomical manner as the atoms in its manufacturers, and those self-same manufacturers emerged from the surface of the same biochemical melting pot as their plant and animal peers. Our fears that what we create is unnatural are as unfounded as any creation myth that does not begin with a bang. We are neither the natural conclusion nor yet a significant inclusion in evolutionary history, but naturally. We manufactured a standard of what natural constitutes just to preclude ourselves, and sure as hell we changed the world, reshaped the world, but if that's enough to become unnatural, by that same standard, when the molecules merged into membrane-bound sacs of cytoplasm, establishing a basis for all subsequent life forms, it was not natural, none of it. And the cells divided, population rising as life resided in places life as we know it could never survive. It was not natural, none of it. But progress didn't stop to pause for breath, and next came the photosynths, who breathed in the CO2 atmosphere and coughed caustic oxygen, toxic to all life forms of the age. They took a world that they found inhospitable and made it inhospitable. Make no mistake, scientists still refer to this event as a holocaust, which is food for thought at the very least when you can bury these tiny chemical changes in literally billions of years of history that they've caused, and it was not natural, none of it. And then came the first great travesty. The long-standing amnesty that all kinds of life would live in peace was breached when a big cell in want of a powerhouse in a single act of endosymbiosis enslaved another, conned it into a mitochondrion, forced it to divorce itself from its status as a living organism, to be reduced to a part of a larger whole. And the efficiency of energy production exploded, but at what cost? What was lost from the sanctity of all life in that brave step? Look down at your body and be aware that it is built with billions of slaves embedded in it. And remember that slavery has a precedent far older than you'd expect, but look at the legacy it leaves when it's allowed to become entrenched. It was not natural, none of it. The building blocks built building blocks onto building blocks, building up to a majestic multicellular structure where the cells diversified, each role defined within the wider society
society, harmonized by only staying alive if they cooperated, operating on a you scratch my back because it's your back too basis. And it was not natural, none of it. And soon it became apparent that this division of labor was able to achieve stuff. Clusters clung to clusters, thrust into a struggle to survive, and what were once microscopic individual lives became component parts of component parts, each highly specialized to provide for the wider life form, none of them any longer able to survive outside of their society's confines, their livelihoods inextricably tied to its vitality. And life right about this time might have begun to be a sight we recognize with our modern eyes, but we've modernized. Our eyes are sophisticated devices next to the trilobites of the time who used raw quartz crystals as lenses, and it was not natural, none of it. And so by this point you might have guessed the complexity exponentially developed and spread, and over time life refined, confined by external selection pressures, offering death to those that did not conform and little deaths to those that did. This was the mechanism by which everything changed, the acceptable level of diversity defined by a violent system. It still rings true, but it was not natural, none of it. And then bang came what is still termed by those tasked with terming these things an explosion of life, seeking each niche and leeching the goodness from it, a promise of a fossilized state, a permanence at the expense of all pretenders, the beginning of a competitiveness, and with it an unprecedentedly long list of Latin and Greek names for no longer existent living things. But it was not natural, none of it. But life at this time was barely aligned with life as we might currently understand. The grand Cambrian diversity ostensibly relatively primitive, it's inevitable when the only available evidence is at best skeletal that the limited capacity for paleontological nostalgia would be suffering from the same limits of life at the time, bumping its head on the ceiling of plausibility. When hindsight is 2020, we can look back at the life of the time and decry that it was not natural, none of it. And as the black box concoctions clocked to count innumerable, their womb, the fountain of pure unfluoridized water, had run dry. By this time they had now flowed through the bodily fluids of a rising tide of life that had decided it outgrown the relative stability of its home and took an opportunity to prove its ability to adapt to a radically more changeable world. The scourge sought more. The scourge poured out of the oceanic amniotic fluids and onto the raw scorched earth was birthed. Mein Führer, they can walk, but it was not natural, none of it. But in the face of the disgraceful tainting of its precious bodily fluids by this perverse insurgence, the earth, resigned to its defined need to keep turning, resolved not to roll over. The earth fought back, a counterattack with dramatic impact but completely untraceable, erased from the earth's own face, a perfect murder. The evidence buried along with its victims, a clandestine expulsion of the vulgarity of life because it was not natural, none of it. But life survived. Life survived this and repeated other attempts to cleanse the stench of it from the earth's surface. Life, buoyed by its newfound robustness, dusted itself down and resumed its scattergun approach of perfection. As its development accelerated, with it grew its familiarity to modern eyes. We can recognize dinosaurs as symbolizing life's defiance, the creation of something majestic as if to spit on the futility of the earth's determination to be rid of it. But it was not natural, none of it. Now, in the fight against life, it's fine and dandy to wipe the dinosaurs, if, of course, you don't consider extraterrestrial assistance to be cheating. Meteorites might annihilate the big things, but linkages in between living things persist, and life by this time had unionized, realized that intertwined dynasties required more time and effort to render irrelevant, that when small scuttling things crawled between the petals of prettier things, they underpinned the near limitless efficiency of living things' persistence, that when the earth, as General Jack D. Ripper remarks, embittered that he's never seen a commie drink water, that it's probably because there's another commie somewhere else drinking it for them, and it is not natural, none of it. But this system, however sustainable, remains able to be rendered unstable. You haven't yet met the best bet when it gets competitive over who usurped the status quo the most. This one organism sought most of all to reorder the system into its own image. I am referring, of course, to grass. Barely a geological period older than ourselves, it shelved the well-thumbed plans that had managed to establish habitats the world over. Suddenly, the trees were easily relieved of their duty to provide the biomass for life by binding the light of the sun to the earth, and the earth's surface waved a little more wispily, but it was not natural, none of it. And though it's easy to tease that we might not be the most grievous squeeze on the planet, we must take no relief, but still consider that on the relevant timescales, we have barely seen the peg, let alone hung our collective coat upon it, that our relative heart has barely beat once, that we won't last long enough to establish the extent of our impact. A sobering fact, given the persistent attack the unnaturalness of life has enacted on the earth. But that doesn't change the fact that in the past lifespan of the human species, we have seen skins worn by those who had not grown them. We have seen rough-cut stones and smelted ores take the place of teeth and claws. We have seen the raw forces and unliving energies, the earth's very weapons against life, harnessed and wielded. We have seen how the very earth yielded to a life form's might for what might be the first time. We have seen the long dead and buried evidence of the earth's continued purge of life returned to the surface and burned. And so we meet again on some sunny day, each with the entire history of life on Earth embroidered at our backs, the atom bomb and me. And we ask each other, at what point did it stop being natural? We have come from the same place. We are made of the same stuff. By my definition of natural, we are the same. And while I'd love to say that's how I learned to stop worrying and love the bomb, instead I learned that the bomb was not what I needed to learn to love. My willingness to set myself as the moral and natural equivalent to the atom bomb via a 4.5 billion year evolutionary history lesson suggests that the atom bomb is not the antagonist in this. Perhaps the creationists had one thing right, that we might be made of the same stuff, but we are made of more, endowed with the power to change the world like it has never been changed before. And though the record suggests that our present efforts are relatively less than impressive, this is not what worries me. I worry that we have yet to see the limit of our capacity or our willingness to use it, which as a human applies to me too. Mr. President, I am not getting hysterical. I'm just finding it difficult to reconcile the miracle level probability discrepancies that the same set of billions of infinitesimal chemical developments could result in both me and the bomb. The bomb is every terrible thing I have the capacity to do, defined as natural and thus resigned as inevitable. Mr. Kubrick, when you said that you learned to love the bomb, did you mean to say that you'd learned to love yourself and what you have the capacity to create and to destroy what you create with what you create? Were you endowed by premonition to preempt scientific definition and show us that though the bang signifies the beginning and end, we can pretend all we like, but the bomb is a representation of us, that we can learn to love ourselves, learn to laugh at ourselves. But Mr. Kubrick, my laughter is hysterical. Mr. Kubrick, I am overawed. My present overlord is one singular word. It was at the beginning and at the end, and the bomb is the messenger of that word. If I can't decry it as unnatural, I have to accept that what it represents stems from my self-same inherent propensity to pen poetic doomsday devices. I'm finding it difficult to stop worrying. I'm finding it difficult to learn to love that word, Mr. Kubrick, for reasons that must be all too obvious. Thank you very much for having me. Give what you can to those who need it more than you and use your platform to encourage others to do the same. Enjoy the rest of the gig.
Woo!
Bob, you've definitely not lost it. Trust me. I can remember when you were writing that, when you were in the middle of writing that and you were doing little tiny parts of it at Bespeak. And I also recall the lap dance you gave me when I got the entire of... I was the first person to get the entirety of that poem in one go. It was wonderful. And it's a memory I will cherish for a long time. Thank you very much, Bob. Now, let's have a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 10 past and we'll do it all again. See you in 10 minutes. Feel free to unmute the chat for the next 10 minutes. And go to the toilet, get a drink, do whatever you want. But yeah, you can unmute, we can chat. This is fine. That was great.
I'm just gonna make this face for a while.
Thank you for making that face. I can't make that face quite that well, so that's perfect.
it's these appley cheeks.
Don't, but didn't get the.
Oh, that was fucking phenomenal.
Wasn't it just?
Everyone's just on top form, and it's just great.
I'm surprised you're not lying flat on your back, just like reinflating your lungs, Bob.
I'll do that.
Crime Zone has nothing on Bob.
Also, I am so tempted to write a parody called "How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bob."
Please do, please make it 17 minutes.
Bob will hate it.
Then I'll have you at the next
You
one.
fucking know I will.
Yeah, John, if you ever do write that, you can do the whole thing in a future Sad Poets Doorstep Club.
I noticed John has put in the chat that I surely have the highest words per minute average. I think the fastest I've been clocked is 380 words a minute. I think that's my record in a performance. So if anyone wants to top that, they can do that.
That's faster than I can type.
Well, you've inspired me to do one of my fast poems at the beginning of the second third. I'm not going to compete with you.
Do it.
I'm not going to compete with you, but it's still going to be fun.
Well, it's entirely Kieran King's fault because I thought I had 3 minutes for an open mic and was told before I went on, like literally about 5 seconds before I went on stage, that I had 2 minutes. So I was like, right, here we go.
It's like
Gonna do the same poem but 1.5 times faster.
like that video of a hamster eating a stick of celery when a cat appears behind it, and its response is just to eat celery faster.
When you ask a dog what it's eating and it chews faster.
That was so good. Like Robert, I just like every single. I suppose it's your own fault. Every single poem, I was waiting for a tiddly on pom after every line. Fucking brilliant.
Yeah, Robert and
Amazing
Dan,
stuff.
thank you so much for coming. Like, new voices to the Sad Poets Doorstep Club virtual stage, but I'm very, very happy you could make it this time.
I'm just gonna go get my bottle of mead because I am allowed alcohol now.
Nice. Oh, it's just, I'm constantly blown away. I've done this, this will be 4 or 5 times on Zoom now, and every single one blows me away. It's fantastic.
I'm next. Prepared to be underwhelmed.
No self-diss.
Wait, no self-diss.
Fine.
You are fantastic.
I appreciate the no self-diss.
Oh, we've got most of the no self-diss brigade in here tonight.
Such a good lineup tonight. Like half the people I know, half the people I don't, and the ones I don't, I'm really looking forward to hearing.
Yeah, I'm
I
always.
actually know loads of people.
I'm always really
Sorry.
excited when I have people in here that I've not had before. It's always just, it's phenomenal.
There's quite a few people I know of but I don't actually know, so that's always nice to be able to put faces. I'm saying ironically without my camera on. Because about 6:25, I suddenly decided I hated all the clothes that I wear, I hate my face and I hate my hair. So I was like, nope, I did my hair all special.
No self-diss on 3 counts.
That's third degree self-diss.
I was actually chatting to my partner Bob about how like luscious your hair is, and we want to know what products you use because your hair looks really healthy and nice.
Sorry, was that me? Or like your partner is called Bob? I'm like, what?
No.
I mean, I imagine there's more than one of us.
No, they're asking you out, Bob. That was a proposition.
No, we were saying your hair looks really nice.
I don't know, am I allowed to advertise stuff? I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder because I've recently started using like a new conditioner. I don't think it's working yet. I got one of those for long and damaged hair.
It's all right, Bob. We'll start running ad breaks soon, and we'll have like Colgate adverts.
Oh my god, is it just gonna be?
Is it gonna become? It's gonna.
I'll get you into the hair ones.
Like.
Bob can do a hair flip, and it's because you're worth it.
Exactly. These headphones.
I need shampoo for long damaged men. I just made that joke, Sven. Suck it.
If we did have adverts, would it just be wall-to-wall nationwide adverts?
Until another bank starts paying poets more, I suppose.
I mean, it's like nationwide and the internet providers or mobile providers that are like, we'll put poems on here.
Yeah, Robert, which bank
Yeah, I
was
find
it
that really random.
you advertised for? Because it says it doesn't say which bank.
The bank.
You know the bank.
the one that gives out the money on Deal or No Deal.
Tom
But Garnham is the banker.
The secret's been revealed.
Oh shit! Noel Edmonds is going to sue me.
Every time you go on the phone, it's just pom pom diddly pom.
Diddly om. I'll offer you £10,000, tiddly om, pom pom tiddly.
Pick up the phone to the person at the other end, and you're just like guffawing laughter at them. Like, excuse me, sorry, were you trying to check your balance? No, balance.
It's really weird because my partner's in the room next door doing their set at a different event, and I can hear them singing. It's really
nice.
Weird. Should have snuck this camera in and been like, just watch them for a minute.
So,
Bonus entertainment.
Bob, this mead is spicier than the chili mead.
How do you know? Have you tried it yet? Because the chili
Yes.
mead was.
I mean, it's got a dragon on it. It's gonna be spicy.
I mean, I have tried it, and like the chili mead is like nice mead, chili, nice,
John,
and then it wears off and you drink. What?
John, is it a spicy mead?
But like this one, it's like between sips, I can feel the chili.
We're still being live streamed on this.
Not live, people.
This is like all access. Is like, oh yeah, let's go in the green room.
Yeah, my events are pure unscripted chaos.
Oh god.
Guys, hide the terrorism plot.
we televise the ad breaks.
Okay, so I was just in the kitchen, and did I hear right something about chili weed?
No.
Chili mead.
Oh, I'm far less interested.
Chili mead.
I think it's called Dragon Breath or like Dragon Fire or something, but the bottle is in German, so.
Oh,
it's a nice bottle. You think you could bring that to the
that bottle in itself is a work of art.
Jonathan, if ever I'm back in Cornwall, you know, in time, you should definitely come down. We'll go to a meadery or something.
You're in Cornwall?
I'm from Cornwall originally. I'm not there now.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm in Cornwall.
Oh, nice. Whereabouts?
Weybridge.
Weybridge. Cool. I'm from Penzance originally.
Yeah.
Right down the bottom.
Oh, nice.
Me. The bottom.
Does that mean you can get the world's
Wales.
longest train?
Yeah, so basically Penzance is the last stop. So if I get on at London, I literally can't go any further. So it's great if I fall asleep.
If you drink some of that and it's distinctly average, does that make it the median?
Fuck off, Sven.
I'm going to take that opportunity to go.
All right, I'm taking end the ad break. We're done. We're starting the next third. That's it. That's how we finish the ad break. Okay, we're back. I'm doing another poem. I'm going to mute Ben because he's not muted. There you go. Muting Sven as well. There you go. Have a mute. Okay. I wasn't originally going to be doing this one, but Bob has inspired me. And he's not even here right now to listen to it. So I'm going to wait and stare at the camera until he gets back. Watch him take like 10 minutes. No, I'm not doing that. I can't be asked. This content warning for sexual content, but also not, but also kinda. It'll make sense by the end. Most of you have heard this a lot before. I've done this a lot. This is a ridiculous poem full of pickup lines for fantasy nerds. This is D and Dating. Edited by Sven. Roll for initiative. This club's full of Duragawa playing real life D&D, and I am the character rolling through the setting like the Fellowship through Baradur, say monsters left and right with a swell of my charisma. I know you came with your party, but forget them like 4th edition. It won't be a difficult feat, babe, because I know every position. We'll break out the battle map for a war of attrition. I've got high dex but low wisdom, so I'm down for some bad decisions. My chat up lines are natural, 27 roll for damage, also I've had plenty. Pat to the chain, time up if you fancy, I just hope you're not into necromancy. Not saying you can't raise me, but you don't need a ritual. I'm actually quite easy, my needs are habitual. I don't need a spellbook to conjure celestial, so trust me when I say that this relief is spiritual. Barbarians rage when I turn on the charm, but my high constitution will save you from the harm. My divine party favours quite disarm, and my lay on hands might cause you some alarm. When I get my second wind, you'll be down for the count. But if you roll a high perception, you can explore this world now. Such as a coin to this witch's bank account, you'll leave with a legendary tale to recount. Extract aspects on the streets, flurry of blows in the sheets, karate swift as these beats, patient defense on repeat. I'm just looking for a person to hold, so watch out for my cone of cold. Sex isn't my end goal, but when I pick up my dice, it's a critical roll. My sexuality didn't come with a handbook, but I'm writing the master's guide. Now, how would you like to do this? Thanks. That was a poem. That was good.
He's back literally the moment you finished.
Bob, for fuck's sake, I did my fast poem and you weren't even fucking here.
You could have given me some warning.
I was going to wait for you, but I didn't want to wait for like 10 minutes staring at the screen.
Oh, I rushed my poem because I needed a wee.
It's all right. You can watch the video tomorrow if you want to watch it.
You'll have to return the lap dance favour.
Yeah, I can do that. Moving swiftly onwards. The next poet is a Udislam team member for Bath Spa, usually covering topics between mental health and love for her girlfriend.
Oh yeah!
Specifically to make her girlfriend blush. This is Tyjana Howard.
And my poems are written for my girlfriend today because I thought she's going to watch it afterwards, so we're all good. The first one I wrote just before this session, just for shits and giggles, and then the other one I wrote a couple weeks ago, so I'm going to go. He told me when I was dating him that my words sound like I've lined my tongue with razors. My girlfriend suggests he must have stuffed his ear with a nettle to hear my words as weapons and not a gift. She says my words sound like a lullaby, wrapping around her ears and draping over her shoulders in the same way nostalgia gives you ghosts of a hug. I have been asked so many times if I have been put off men because of a man. I said the boy didn't help matters, but I have only said I love you through a clenched smile and headaches because I know lying is wrong. But I was too scared to tell the truth, so I kissed this basketball boy, all leathery and dribbling, and tried to make it work. He wouldn't let me leave when I'd found myself. When I said I was fonder of chapstick lips and hand cream hands, I'm sure he will miss the way I stared at the ceiling until I saw the sun again. My girlfriend ensures that I am comfortable sharing covers and that sleep comes for me, and he comes for himself. My straightness was such a lonely lie. My girlfriend reminds me that I am not a convenience. I wait to questions of my well-being and heart emojis. She tells me I'm giving too much and to let myself be the recipient of someone else's heart before I rush to give them mine. She says, "Here is my heart. You'll notice it is kept in the same place as yours. You'll see it in the stamps on the envelopes delivered. You will hear it in the voice of my video calls. You'll see it in my dimples and my eyes and my hands. You will feel it on your lips in the way they echo my smile moments after a meeting." She watches me delicately touch my mouth with my fingertips to prod the numb reminder. Tells me this is how a kiss is supposed to make you feel. A roller coaster cart of heartbeats that promise return, not a sword and umbrella abandoned in a building entrance. She says, I can seek my identity with dyed hair and chopped nails, but I don't have to prove myself to stranger friends. She says it is enough that I know how sweet her lips taste, how soft her palms hold, how much her heart weighs in my hands. It's enough that we know. Thank you.
Woo!
Okay, and the next one, some of you might have heard if you went to one of Aisha's open mics, but I'm going to do it anyway. In my absence, I gave you letters to open to substitute advice I'd given person. You said to me, stop making me acknowledge my feelings just to find an envelope. I replied, open this when you don't know how to feel. Let the notebook fall into your lap and write until your sentences make sense again. See how hard you press your pen to the paper and wonder what made you angry enough to tear it. Stain the side of your hand with big blue ink and distract yourself with this homemade stamp. Open this when you are stressed. Slip your nails under the adhesive and scream into the envelope. Seal your anxiety with your lips and use it as kindling. Hear your scream among the wood and let it warm you. Open this when you are happy. This letter is blank. I asked you to write everything that made you smile on the paper, decorate it with silly pictures and washi tape, seal the envelope back up. Open this one again when you feel like you forgot where to find your dimples. Open this one when you miss me. This letter is soaked in the scent I wear upon my wrists. Remember, you cannot miss that which is always there, and that is where my mind tends to wander. Open this when you miss my lips. This letter smells like incense sticks, the same nag shampoo smell my kisses carry. Calming and burning, letting your worries wrap gently round my tongue until we both exhale smoke. Open this when you need a distraction. It is full of poem prompts and half-finished sentences. Let your mind wander to the same place it goes on a warm afternoon, where your eyes chase the steam of your tea and picture the figures it creates. Open this when you feel broken. When your shards of self are too sharp to hold in your hands, let these garden gloves gather what is left and bury them. The ground forgives that which it is forced to swallow, and maybe in time you will too. Open this when morning starts to feel like an obligation and not a promise. Remember when I told you death seemed more like an opportunity than eventuality, and you told me there are far better things to look forward to. Look up the time the sun sets for me, and look forward to a goodbye far less tragic. Open this when you feel ill. It tells you to remember that Dr. Google turns headaches into tumours and to trust your own body. You have felt enough hurt to know where the pain lies without poking your bruises. Open this when we are old. Enclosed are the Polaroids of our youth, smiles where the ink has spread, marring the picture. Enclosed are all the letters of the things you felt, and I hope that when you hold this in a wrinkled hand, that it is I that sets the teapot on the table and asks how you're feeling, not the paper. Thank you.
Is that everything, or do you want to do another one?
I could do another one, but it's not going to be about my girlfriend, unfortunately. Is there time for another one?
If you want to, it's up to you.
I'll just see if I've got one right here. Nope, I haven't. I'm sorry. There's none that's just I can just grab.
That's fine. Thank you very much. That was really cute and really nice and warm, and yeah, I just want to swoon.
Thank you.
I'll swoon for your girlfriend now, so she can swoon later. But you still get the reaction. Moving swiftly onwards, this next poet is a 19-year-old trans actor and poet, here to make you laugh, cry, and question your sanity. Hide your kids, hide your partners, hide your loose punctuation. This is Cas Potterton!
Whoa. Hello there. I wrote that introduction, it's not that impressive. I'm going to apologize in advance for any background noise because I am in a house with 7 people and none of them know what privacy is. So his first poem, content warning for abuse and a very brief mention of suicide, because I like to write angry poetry about my ex and I can't perform it in most places because he likes to stalk me. So it's called Leave My Art Out of This. Go ahead and hate me. Resent me for the things you claim I did, regardless of their legitimacy. Publish your convoluted falsehoods to the world, to the witless few who still believe. Call me dishonest, disloyal, unfaithful. Conjure up crimes I've committed, copy and paste yourself into parts of my life that never concerned you to make it seem as though I wronged you in countless ways. Paint me as the devil, if you will. I can't stop you, and I no longer have the energy nor the desire to try. But don't you dare insult my craft. Poetry is my art, my way of spilling my soul to those willing to listen. When my emotions are set into stanzas, I can help them understand what it's like up here. I can be open about what I love and hate, what hurts me and what helps me. It is not merely an excuse for malice. And for you to accuse me of such is unforgivable. You are vile, and sorely mistaken if you think I'll stand for this slander. Already you stripped me of so much, till I was barely a shadow of my former self, my happy self. But I will not let this be taken from me. You cannot soil the last pure thing in my life. There is little I indulge in anymore, for what once brought me joy is now shrouded in darkness. A friend once held a BB gun to my head, and the shiver down my spine mimicked that which arises when I walk past the park. There was a massive part of my childhood, in the same park you left me stranded in, after saying you were going to kill yourself, and it was all my fault. And not for the first or last time. Poetry. One of the few things you have yet to ruin in such a manner. It's held me together since I was 12, a constant in my life, while you began tearing me apart at barely 15 years old. I was forced to accept your hatred of my family, my friends, my interests, my faith, my transition. And while it hurt that you were never proud of my achievements, I never voiced that hurt in an effort to keep you happy. It wasn't until I began writing this that I finally realized what you really hated was my individuality. You'd think that would hurt too, but it doesn't. I'm now fully aware that what you really wanted was a non-sentient possession to disperse attention rather than a boyfriend, a complex human being. So rather than wasting any more time wallowing in sadness, I'm filled with joy. Really, I should thank you. I write only truth, though I can't expect a pathological liar such as yourself to believe that. But know that every time you publicize a paragraph of misinformation that contradicts the last, I'm hit with a wave of inspiration that I can't get anywhere else. We wouldn't have this poem if you hadn't announced that I was a thieving, lying, attention-seeking cheater. And I know my way with words riles you up, so let me reword what I said before. Go ahead and hate me. Resent me for the things you claim I did. Publish your convoluted falsehoods to the world. Paint me as the devil, if you will. But if I were you, I'd stop fueling this creative fire and leave my art out of this. Thank you. This next one is not so secretly about my girlfriend. It's called Higher Than the Heavens. Once upon a time, we decided that the universe didn't deserve us. No gods could judge us, no systems could restrain us, no laws could deter us. Shredding expectations and encouraging eccentricities, we decided to live solely for ourselves and each other. Chasing our destinies to the ends of the earth, we kicked out into the dirt like it was nothing, because it is nothing. We'd tower over it all, becoming higher than the heavens the second we stopped letting fear control us. Sliding into the passenger seat, we gave ambition the wheel, so we could finally take that back road to happiness in a reliant robin fueled by love. Ignore the scratches and the dents and the way the engine rattles, because fuck it all, we're not failing our MOT today. We've got better things to do, better places to see, better people to be, better lives to live, a future to reign in, because the past doesn't matter. And in a moment, neither will the present. Failure is fake, and we are invincible. Cheers. Got one more for you, because it's LGBTQ History Month. A couple years ago, I wrote a poem about asexuality for my friend's final uni show, and it's called All Your Faves Are Ace. Imagine if TV shows favored good representation over frequent fornication, or love scenes in movies moved over, making room for Cluedo, or Kaplunk, or Boggle. Or maybe, once in a while, a book character's life wouldn't be governed by coital desire. Wouldn't it be refreshing to see a character more like me? Asexual. And no, I'm not a plant, but even Audrey 2 had some odd attachments. And no, I'm not a robot, but even Bicentennial Man wanted some action. And even if I could reproduce alone, it wouldn't affect this dire representation situation, because I'm not sure Plankton and Karen always kept it strictly PG. 4 in 52 cards are ace. But did you know that so are 1 in 100 people? That makes it roughly a 2-to-1 ratio, gingers to aces. So starting with the Weasleys, we've got some catching up to do. So I'm putting my foot down today. I'm starting a revolution, ordering the execution of all the Barney Stinsons on TV, making way for people like me, asexual. Who says Newt Scamander can't have a healthy, fulfilling life with his kids and his wife and still prefer majestic winged beasts over shuffling sheets? I'm sure Castiel cares more about the apocalypse than crashing hips. Groot is more organic, less orgasmic. The Doctor's more concerned about regeneration than copulation, and Eggin would rather have cake than sex. That one doesn't rhyme, but you get the gist. We revolt at dawn. No more silver screen porn. I want Bake Off to take center stage. I want dragons and theatre and a million things that are a million times more important to the 70 million of us to populate modern media in lieu of the message, there's no love without sex. And while we're at it, I can't say I'd be devastated if the word sexy was banned entirely, unless in reference to bass guitars, the TARDIS, or flawless calligraphy. Because let's face it, it's weird that there's a word that communicates in just 2 syllables that you want to get down and dirty with someone based on how they look. Something has to be done, and it begins right now. Aces of all shapes, sizes, ages, and races, normal people with massive hearts. Only sexual indifference sets us apart, not robots or aliens, not psychopaths or prudes. I'm not waiting for the right person because that's just not how it works. And my hormones are fine, good, great, in fact. I'm just me, always have been, always will be. Change will come, and it starts right here, with the Luna Lovegoods, the Blake Belladonnas, the Robin Hoods, and the Sherlocks. We ride at dawn we ride forth on wyverns, wielding cake pop katanas. Let's paint the skies purple and grey. Today is the day we say, all your faves are ace, and there's nothing you can do about it. Thank you very much.
Woo!
If you enjoyed that mess, you can find me on Facebook, Cas Potterton Poet. Don't post very often, but there's some more stuff there. Cheers for having me.
Woo! Thank you, Cass. I don't know if you could tell, but D and Dating is subtly an ace poem that markets itself as a very not ace poem, but I promise it's an ace poem. You've also inspired me to do my actual ace poem in the third, so we'll get more of that as well. That'll be nice. Moving swiftly onwards. This next poet is a 34-year-old writer of poetry and short fiction from County Durham. Her work has been featured in Fragmented Voices, Analog Submission Press, Periwinkle, and others. Please welcome Holly Jackson.
Woo!
Woo! Hello, thank you very much. So when I realized that this was tonight and I'd done absolutely no preparation whatsoever, I kind of freaked out slightly and went, I haven't like 2 queer poems at all. So I'm going to read you the 2 that I had and the one that I've written today. And yeah, I hope it goes well. This first one is a very, very, very old poem. It's the first poem that I ever wrote about my sexuality, but it was when I wrote it when I was still very, very, very much in the closet. So I needed it to not say anything about sexuality actually whatsoever, although it's probably not anywhere near as subtle as at 22 I thought it was. It's pretty terrible really, but there we go. It's called The Secret. She has a secret she'll never reveal, not to her friends or the one, her ideal. This secret she keeps never to share, hidden too deep ever to bear. It's hers alone, her burden to hide. No one else knows what she keeps inside. This part of herself, her refusal to share, it's not what you think, she never would care. This secret she keeps in her heart of oak. It's hers alone, her own private joke. The secret desire shall burn ever deeper. Though she'll never succumb, your love will keep her. You could never understand this part of her being. It's inconsequential. There's no need in seeing. You'll know of no secret. You'll never suspect. This poem remains forever unread. So, thank you. So I just wanted to put that in there as an example of how ridiculously in the closet I used to be and how I actually was so scared to come out that I thought it mattered. And then the next poem that I'm going to read is my coming out poem that I wrote earlier this year or last year, and posted on Facebook for all my family to see, and a few of them got a bit of a shock, and it was quite funny, but very nice reactions from everyone in my family, which was very, very lovely. It's called Pride. The first time I fell for a woman, I was 11 years old. Miss Fisher, our classroom assistant. My dad and I both had a crush on her. It was awkward. When I was 14, a friend came out to me after kissing a girl at our church youth camp, and I hid my jealousy from myself. At 17, I kissed a girl. During a game of Truth or Dare, my boyfriend called me his little lesbian, and I pretended it was funny. At 22, after years of heterosexual monogamy punctuated by lesbian porn, I eventually accepted myself, but told no one. Eventually I shared myself a little, to the unquestioning support of my husband and some friends to whom I blurted out my drunken truth one night at the Market Tavern in Durham, and to others over the years with mixed results. But never to a single member of my family, always so careful what I said, where, and to whom, in case it got back to someone who knew someone who knew someone who might tell my father. Afraid of loss and Leviticus quotes. But the loss I was afraid of happened anyway, and now I'll always wonder if he would have surprised me. I'm still afraid, but now it's less of what they'll say and more of living hidden away. So here goes. And bye. Have a nice day. Thank you. The next poem that I am going to read is called Ostrich, and it comes with a trigger warning for themes of abuse. Ostrich. I smiled a dutiful smile while you tied my blindfold tight. I held it in place, stumbling around blind, while you ripped them all to shreds. In the dark, I heard the screaming, convinced it was them that did the beating, the wolves that used you up. So convinced of your piety, because you never hurt me. I was what you wanted. I was what you wanted me to be, filled with adoring, stupid naivety. You turned their love to darkness, left them in fear and alone, contrived your absolution, justified it with lies. But now you're gone, burned and into blackness. Your wolf ripped apart my blindfold, and I blink at harsh light. The reality that burns my eyes. So I bury my head below deep clumps of sand, coming out periodically in fortnightly appointments to take in the light a little at a time, as much as my eyes will allow, before it all becomes too much. The doctor leaves out tissues to wipe my burning eyes. She tells me to accept the answers I will never have, but instead I close my eyes, pour the sand across, encased in darkness are my questions, for at least another fortnight. Thank you. My next poem that I'm going to read is a bit of a sexy one, and it's the first poem that I ever got published, and it's in the beautiful Fragmented Voices anthology, and it's called Dreaming Japanese. Sometimes when I miss you, the land around me tremors from cracks in my tectonic plates. Alone in this Zen garden, I lay myself on a tatami mat and dream about us two. The Sakura cherry, refreshed by evening rain, opens soft petals to receive their gift. In this one woman among the no, my waki flies to me on imagined wings. Days and miles evaporate like Japanese mist. In my Oka dreams, it's my fingertips and origami folds you kiss. Thank you. Okay, and my last poem I literally wrote today, after I had a conversation this morning on my way to work with Andi Talbot, and we were talking about flagging randomly. I don't know how the conversation got onto that, but we randomly had a conversation this morning about flagging, and it inspired me to write a poem. So there you go, it's called Flagging. When we can go out again, when we can take back the world again, meet, touch, share drinks and saliva, dance and flirt and fuck again. Can we bring back flagging, please? Jump back to 2012-ish, when women painted nails different shades, met in crowded bars and sexily waved, for her eyes only. And I fucking missed it. 26 and spending all my time with straight people. 7 years into that seemingly endless relationship with the first boy who ever said, I love you back. Barely even out, just a handful. Just a baby bi girl. Never even set foot in a gay bar. Still afraid of his hypocritical, sanctimonious fucking wrath. But let's not dwell on him. He doesn't deserve my words. I missed out on flagging. Now, when I see a cute woman with the nail on her third finger painted a different shade of pink or fawn, I sigh and think she's probably just a straight girl who has no idea why she started painting them like that in the first place. Thank you. That's me. Thank you so much for having me. It's been brilliant, and I've absolutely loved everybody's poetry. It's absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to hear the rest of it. So thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.
Thank you, Molly. You are always a delight. That was a mix of somber, sad, and nice and warm. So thank you. Next up, this poet is a Northeast performer and has turned his hand to prose, spoken word, and music. He was raised by gay parents, was homeschooled, and is on the autism spectrum, so his work touches upon feelings of being at odds with what's perceived as the norm. He's also one of the hosts for spoken word comedy music night Bubblegum. Please give it up for Ben Dawson-Punshon.
Woo!
You're muted, Ben.
There we go. Yeah, as soon as you clicked unmute, I had an option to, it presented me with a screen to say unmute myself. So technology, I hate it. Right. So as was just mentioned, I'm on the spectrum. I was diagnosed 6 years ago, later on this year. And since then, it's sort of like I knew people who were on the spectrum before then, but I've met other people who are on the spectrum after that. And I think there's a case of sort of like attracting you know, where some people are sort of like on the same wavelength and they're just naturally drawn together. And just sort of like sharing experiences, I found that a lot of them were shared. You know, there was a lot of commonalities. And just thinking about sort of growing up before I had the diagnosis and whatnot, and what led to me seeking it out, it just got poured into this first piece. And it's called Spectral Analysis. I haven't performed this in a while, so I'm going to have the page in front of me, my little cheat sheet. So, Spectral Analysis. I sit, pen in hand, staring down fixedly at an empty page. Lying vacant, but full of the potential of words that are yet to be uttered, it stares back at me as if to say, well, come on then, what do you got? What combination of metaphor, simile, and analogy have you got in your arsenal that when presented will pull someone out of their headspace and directly into yours? That is a question I have asked myself every day of every week, of every month, of every year, as I've cracked the whip on my own back, wondering whether or not I've missed some important cue, or whether the clues will slot into place just a second too late for me to react accordingly. Even if this question escapes the periphery of my conscious mind, it remains ever repeating in the operating system of my subconscious, like an application running in the background of a smartphone. And it's like this app of mine has been recording my memories since day one. For me to pick apart and to analyze in an attempt to reverse engineer the human experience, to desperately quantify what it is to be a human among humans, because if I can do that, then perhaps them clues will start slotting into place precisely on cue. You know that feeling when there's a word on the tip of your tongue, and it's a word that, given the context of whatever situation you're in at the time, is the most eloquent, succulent sounding word in your vocabulary. It is the kind of word that, when properly executed, has the power to change minds, to broaden horizons, to evolve an understanding between people. But try as you may to summon it, that word just doesn't enter into the fray. That cusp of an achievement, like the brink of an orgasm that never comes, is the kind of feeling I have every day as I worry about whether or not I've portrayed the ideal version of myself, or betrayed my true intentions by not holding on to that gaze for just a second longer. The whisper in my ears, and I'm sure it's whispered into the ears of many others, was that first impressions count for everything. Smile more and speak up and meet their gaze. But when I try, can you smile nicely? Can you please be a little more quiet? And can you please not give me them eyes? You see, from where I'm standing, life is as if that little bit of rhetoric was a roided up gym nut who posturizes in such a way as if to say they own all of your personal space. And every encounter with this hulking figure, be it the first or the 100th, is a new opportunity to expose a compromising part of yourself that they could use to disregard your humanity, to find some flaw in your essence, to eternally identify you as the runt of the letter, there for them to push and to pull, to cut and to bruise, to satisfy an insatiable itch to assert their dominance. And it's never just a first impression. It's a second and a third and a fourth and every other fucking impression after that. And it leaves me exhausted, completely spent. Although there are times I do feel rich, social interaction is like a mental transaction of cerebral currency I can't always afford to spend. And other times it feels as if I'm running a debt of overdrafted time that really should be paid back to the people who show me nothing but love. But every fiber in my being is screaming for me to sink deeper into isolated bankruptcy. So, having given my answer to the question given to me by the page, I step back down at it again. Fresh ink now etched into it as if it were a tattooed portrait of my soul. It stares back at me and it blinks. Thanks. Right, have I got time for one more? It's a shorter one than that. Cool. Okay. So I think everybody who winds up performing in whatever capacity, whether it's acting, whether it's poetry, whether it's music, whether it's comedy, anything that's a performing art, I think there's a tendency to have this thing called imposter syndrome. Am I right? I'm right. All right. And I mean, I found myself on open mics and buskers nights and spoken word shows and everything. And all of a sudden it's I've just kind of fallen into this after seeing other people do it. And so they look so cool doing it. They sound so cool doing it. And you learn so much about other people's experiences that you just don't necessarily learn in a conversation. But there's also an element of sort of like, well, I want to do this because I want to be seen. So there's an element of that ego in there as well. Because, I mean, we're all have a little bit of ego about us. It's part of who we are, so long as we don't get overruled by it. So this is a bit about performance anxiety. And I wrote it one way, put it into showed it in a workshop, and ended up doing a David Bowie to it, where I basically cut up all the stanzas and rearranged them. So let's see how this sounds. This so far has no name, but let's see how it goes. Picking the bones of what's come before is such a bore, don't you see? And I'm related to the vultures stealing cultures, don't you see? I aim for Holmes and then settle for Watson. But if I'm called out, I'm like, Watson? I pepper my tongue with words which seem archaic. Out of date, but I claim to seem more cultured at any rate. You say I'm lazy? Well, I may be. But don't think your words will faze me. Because unless I am mistaken, you'll be carrying my baby. I don't mean there'll be a fetus who in 9 months will come to greet us. But words can birth a sperm of thought which germinates a philosophy watered in reflection of your actions. But it occurs to me, when I'm 30, I'll be as thirsty as I was at 13. Or won't you look at me living the wet dream when there's no cat to get the cream? Broadly speaking, once I've spake, it will be clear that I'm a fake. A fraud! Don't even know how I have the gall to speak at all. Oh well, whatever, never mind. I'll close my eyes and pretend I'm fine. I'll pretend that I don't shake like a level 6 earthquake every time I fake the flourish of courage. Thanks. So that's me all done, but I will leave you with this one thought. And it occurred to me earlier on, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I had beans and toast for lunch. That the difference between like a Zoom poetry session and what we used to do in a live room is that you can fart as much as you want without offending anybody's noses.
Thank you, Ben. Oh, thank you. I very rarely hear you do poetry anymore. I think the last SPDC you did music, and did you do music before that as well?
I think I did one spoken word piece and then a little bit of music after that. And I've been doing a few of those little odds and sods as far as live streams are concerned, but that's just me being mainly with music.
Yeah, I've not heard you do poetry in a while. It's so nice to hear you do it again.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
Well, thank you very much.
That's all right. Moving onwards. The next poet is an international slam champion, multilingual LGBTQ plus spoken word artist, workshop facilitator, playwright, producer, and artist from Cornwall. They're published internationally with 2 full collections by Whiskey and Beards. They are new, fresh to the Sad Poets Doorstep Club stage. Please welcome Laura Kestrel. Woo! Everyone gets the wrestling announcer introduction.
Thank you for having me and for that wonderful introduction. I'm going to do kind of a quiet reflection set today because I have a bit of a cold and my throat is absolutely killing me. So you'll hear my more kind of louder poems at another point. So I'm going to do kind of a long one that's a little, not long, longer than the other 2, that's a little sad, and then 2 short ones. Okay. I see your mouth in the corners of my bedroom skirting board, your words carved across the walls like the sour milk border follows its way along like railway tracks. That's how the attraction always worked with us. Like rust flakes and splinters its way across weathered hands, you touched me and I started flaking. my silhouette softened by pigments of peronone, ringing around me like a sordid halo. In my wake, I left behind me memories and metallic dust. I've never been good at taking things slow. You look at me with wide eyes and soft cheeks, but with a stare that tells me you knew. You always knew that I was stating the obvious and that things were always complicated. Maybe I'm notorious, an absolute prodigy at unbalancing myself. I've always been a bit clumsy. Like a spring tumbles its way over watercress and pebbles, so too does the inundation of infatuation. It starts in my hands and bubbles its way across my chest. It cradles me and comforts me, simmering gently until either my lungs grow smaller or its grip moves from soothing to strangulate. I consider if that's really your mouth, if you still exist somewhere outside of my own imagination. I wonder if the border was always sour milk and I've only just noticed the tang, or if maybe it was always this way. Maybe it had always been this way, but I, too stubborn to admit it. I tell you I like you. I want to tell you that I almost love you, but I'm not sure what the almost means. I've not been myself lately. I think you know that feeling all too well. In my head, I've told you I love you so many times, but every time the acid reflux of the words sits heavy in my mouth like cemetery gravel, and I'm not soft enough to be crumpled up again like paper. You stare fervently into my eye sockets like you're searching for answers I have no idea how to give you. Like maybe I'm some kind of answer to a question you haven't quite formulated yet. You don't understand why I would like you because you don't like yourself. I swallow the gravel, ignoring my bleeding throat, and I say it. I really like you since the moment we met, and I wish you could see yourself how I see you. I always knew you were going to be a something, a blessing or a curse, or maybe both at the same time. I still didn't know, but something important nonetheless. Your beautiful eyes gaze at me like you're not sure what to do with this information. I worry I've misread the situation. I tell you, forget I said anything. It's late and we're both blurry-eyed from booze. Let's see what happens during daylight. When I'm alone, I think about how we see time differently. I don't want to waste a moment of it, no matter how finite, but you're afraid. You don't like the prospect of a definite end before even beginning. Loss is something you're used to, yet at the same time, every departure hurts just as hard. And I get it, your reluctance to go through that again. I reflect upon this alternate approach. I wonder if it saves less time lamenting later, and I decide that I don't like getting emotionally roughed up. Even less so when I invite it upon myself, despite having reservations, that reservations are reminders that the all guns blazing approach will always make a statement, but not always one worth making. That reservations are the emotional manifestations of bruises left behind from wounds which oozed before. I remind myself that self-inflicted pains can get just as infected as those inflicted upon you. I reflect on what we were and what we could have been, and then I'm brought back down to earth by what we are. I open my eyes to the soft light of the morning and the taste of warm milk. I see your mouth in the corners of my bedroom skirting board, and I vow to take my time in future. Thank you. This one is from the new collection from Whiskey and Beards, Turnstiles and Turnaround Smiles. It came out just before lockdown, which was kind of crap timing. But yeah, if you like it, check them out check Whiskey and Beards out on Facebook and check my book out. Yeah. So this is Yellow. They said I tasted like yellow. My lips oozed with drops of it, like honey painted on comb, or of gorse flowers, fruit and coconut smells, ripening in the specks of sea-kissed sunlight. I said wryly that they reminded me of fiery red, but more the delicate inside of tulip petals. They were the colour of everything I had suppressed, like steam long left hidden inside a pot, boiling, 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 and about to bubble over. Maybe we were blue, so many different kaleidoscopic hues of blue, the colour of hope, or just unexpected rays of moonlight on an astoundingly average evening, marking black and white films with vibrant colour. And even amongst these shimmers of azure, their bold, daring blue was exemplified fiercely by boring, dreary backdrops. Not a wallflower, but a flower breathing life into all walls. And if yellow is a favourable flavour, well, then I guess they must be yellow too. I'm still not exactly sure what yellow means, but I think I like it. Thank you. And yeah, our last one, I was sat in my parents' dining room about a year ago, and then I recently found this poem again. And yeah, I was just having a think and I wrote this. When I was a kid, Oh, sorry, it's called Four-Leaf Circumstances. When I was a kid, I was always told how four-leaf clovers are lucky, that if you find one, something good will follow. As I got older, I learned that four-leaf clovers are that way due to a genetic mutation, and that if you find one, you're likely to find others nearby. It got me thinking, can four-leaf clovers be both an anomaly and something to be revered? Can they be both a mistake and a blessing? Both a result of bad timing and a cause of better times to come? I thought about four-leaf clovers while I looked at the two I have sellotaped to the pin board at in my parents' dining room, left over from childhood optimism, the tape brown with age. And the more I looked, the harder it became to differentiate between circumstance and clover. Thank you. I'm not sure if that was 7 minutes. It might be a bit short, but that's all I have. So yeah, check out Whiskey and Beards on Facebook. And if you like what you hear, I'm Laura Kestrel. You can find me on Facebook too. And you can find my books on Amazon. Turnstiles and Turnaround Smiles and Lambs with Names of Lions. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. I'm just going to echo what everyone said in the chat. Bars. They were some bars. Also, guess who else has got a book out with Whiskey and Beards? Or will have a book out with Whiskey and Beards in April. Also Sven, yeah, but
I promise that wasn't a segue. That was just pure coincidence.
We didn't plan this. Oh, right. It's time for the second headliner of the night. This poet runs Hammer and Tongue Cambridge and own poetry label Allographic, and is the spoken word artistic director for Edinburgh's Free Fringe. He writes about the sea, heroes, relationships, and folklore. Please welcome Fay Roberts.
Woo! Hell yeah!
Loving that that wrestling intro thing. Very, very cool. Yes. Okay. Vermi rovano, vermi rovani, vermi sad am I without thee. He set off that morning with no particular aim in mind, just a need to see the sea, when suddenly wind whistle and gull cry was song and laughter, and thereafter he could never hear either without his imagination running raw. What he saw, dawn after dawn, beggared forgetting, delving deep into sleepless nights. After the seventh such he surrendered, and rendered bold by a hunger that begrudged his lungs their breath, he crept from behind his accustomed rock and touched what was never his to touch, laying rough hands on the sand-speckled pelt of the naked seal who danced like wind-blown spume along the shore, a woman for this while. She turned with a smile that died at the sight of uninvited fingers on her hide. The sacred made profane, no, she said, and please, but he didn't heed, just tightened his grip and retreated, while she, tear-streaked, trailing entreaties, tailed behind, taken by a binding curse too cruel to resist. And over the 7 years that followed, and their 3 children, kept from the sea by his bedrock fear of their freedom, she never stopped looking, between cooking and cleaning and every other mechanical task she blessed his house with, until innocence, in the form of their 3rd child, did find it musty and damp and tied tight with twine. What's this? At once she kissed her kids, blissfully slit those bitter strings, and slinging the skin over her shoulder ran like riptide for the shore, calling all the while, wild as wind cry, shedding clothing with each step until she plunged, properly clad at last, into the welcoming waves. This was a tale of the Selkie folk. They never seem to end well for everyone. Thank you. Hey, it's Kathryn. I changed up my set a little bit because I heard something that Ben was saying and I went, let's do this one instead. It was written in a workshop after I'd come back from a gig where for once I was spending time with a lot of other disabled people. And yeah, and people combining neurodivergence and chronic fatigue and disability and all sorts of different things together. And I found myself in this very sleep deprived workshop writing a list poem. I don't do list poems, but this is a list poem, so guess that's your trigger warning. But yeah, this is called In This Moment. I am tired. I'm always tired. I'm tired of explaining that I'm tired. I forget sometimes that tired is something it's possible not to be. I am the lazy girl on family holidays dragged from aching bed. I am misbehaving incidentally. I am squinting into snaps with my light rejecting eyes. why do you keep pulling faces? I'm not a good girl. I am the Nordic genes that peeked through the Celtic. I am recessive, a sport in 3 dark generations. I'm the one who shies from eye contact. I'm the one who tires easily. I'm the numb face. What does that expression mean? Guess? I am a collection of alleles. I am fighting collagen imperfections, stretching a point. I am always injured. Where can I hug you? You're always injured. I am always injured. I am injured by affection. Now I'm tired of people thinking my afflictions, affectations. I am tired of having allergies. I am tired of talking about having allergies. I am tired of explaining about allergies. I am tired of defending my unwanted allergies. I am tired of explaining why I don't go out to eat, although obviously that's less of an issue these days. I am low on leisure time, and that's still true. I am always busy. I am working hard. I am crashing out. I am not a lazy girl. I am not a girl. I am a gift of curls and curves and connections that no one expected. I am a collection of recessive alleles. I am the least likely in my family. I am angry. I am always angry. That's my secret. I am tired of being angry and angry about being tired. I am striving towards a world that I don't need to be angry in. I am burning under a sun I wasn't made of. I am missing the sea and hills and rain. I am tired of explaining that yes, you can miss hills in Cambridge and rain. I am Welsh and Scottish and Northern Irish and Danish. I am European. I am European. I'm applying for an Irish passport. Much easier now. I am glossing over the complication of English in the mix. I am a collection of rebel songs sung softly. I'm learning how not to watch the rugby here for 17 years. I am watching my vowels. I am modulating, adapting, shifting scripts. I am tired of watching my vowels. I am pronouncing it tooth, actually. I am tidy, tamping, hanging, lesh, spreading peak trough language over flat diction. I am dialect differences that don't die. I am signing automatically when people don't understand my accent or sound crashes against the softness of my trembling membranes. I am spying others like me. I am stubborn. I am spreading rapid handwriting on a page. I am typing this up because no one can read my handwriting, including me, apparently. I am writing at least 1,000 words every day. I am in love with writing. I am injured. I'm always injured. I am too injured to write without pain. I am writing. I am a hashtag I despise. I am tired of writing about myself as a way of hiding. I am tired of feeling like I'm nearly out of time. I am tired of being tired. And I'm out of time. Thank you.
Woo, woo!
Thank you for unmuting. I get confused sometimes. This is lovely, by the way. You know, when you're just kind of, oh, well, maybe I'll zone out a little bit. I've not found a moment to zone out. You're all just so good. It's ridiculous. I have to step up that game. It's good. Talked about being angry. This is my really angry queer poem. Wrote it in June, as some of you might guess from some of the keywords that come up here, especially at the end there, when someone we do not name decided to go ham on Twitter about. Anyway, so this one is called Instruction List, or How to Be Acceptably Queer, or Mensana in Corpore Alter. You're supposed to stand still. Never resist those who say you don't exist, who debate your right to the words that set you free, who want to pin you to that body, drive stakes through your heart and other associated parts. Kickstart your acceptance of the lies with electrifying dog piles. and the weight of recent history, ignoring the identity of those who actually rewrote our legends anyway. I'm supposed to stay calm, keep my voice low, hands low, eyes low, don't provoke their anger, understand their pain, internalize how they feel invalidated by my truth, saying there's no room for me and my siblings, digging in heels and haunches. You can't sit with us unless you confess your sins, repent your manifestation, stay there, stand, or better, kneel by the cheap seats, and don't think of building your own place either. I'm supposed to apologize constantly, beg scraps of your largesse, demonstrate humility at every pass because I don't pass for whatever you think this ought to be. Forgive you for every grumpy non-apology. I find this difficult. Then try being me, us, them. Stuttering in a no man's land we've had to handcraft from cast-offs, locking horns we never wanted with those who are supposed to be family. I'm supposed to stay silent. Don't mention the war I never signed up for. I've had more respect from everyone but you. Did you know that? It's like being bi in the 90s all over again, and yet legendary septuagenarians are doing their best, correcting themselves without aggression. I've had more accommodation from straight priests, incidentally, one messaging me, would you like me to think of you as they? Before I'd said as much publicly, knowing that her thoughts mattered as much as her actions. Allies are people who know that understanding our needs are more important than feeling how we feel. I'm supposed to bow when you all caps shout biology, as though summoning an unstoppable god. That's not how science works, incidentally. And Mumsnet is a bad place for mental attunement to the new ways of being. But believe me, your cargo cult of is barely GCSE understanding, and the key thing about science is that on the presentation of new, compelling evidence, it changes its mind. But that kind of mental grind is obviously too much work for you. Your synapses wrapped in concrete, more than uneasy with the notions of bridging gaps. I was supposed to be patient, to lead you by better understanding gently, by the hand, absorb the snarls and snipes, the gripes of the territorially threatened, those jettisoning kinship for the shallow thrill of behaving just as badly as everyone we fought from before this schism. Stonewall wasn't started by the gender conforming. Storming battlements was never led by anything but unrepentant queerness. And before you scorn my scars, I'm 45, not part of the naivety you harp on. Have marched and petitioned, represented, stepped to and stood my ground since the last century. I'd ask you to fight alongside me, plead for compassion. Gnashing my teeth has never been my style, but while you're convinced your rights to existence are threatened by mine, I'll have to decline your kind offer to be your proffering to the gods for acceptance by the mainstream and glean succor from those who know that parity isn't a zero-sum game, actually. So fellow fighters, please be at peace. But best believe your current price for that transaction is too high. Comfort cannot come by you colluding with those who seek to bind me, who would see me defined by how I bleed. Cheers. Ranty, ranty, ranty poet is ranty. So I'm going to do a really quick plug because I don't have time to actually give you any examples from it. I and a few others every year do a thing called 28 Sonnets Later, where we attempt to write one sonnet for every day of February between us to a theme with randomly assigned topics. So please check it out. I'll be doing my last one tomorrow. There are a couple more to go. This year we wanted to nod towards the slow apocalypse surrounding us, but we thought writing destruction myth poems every day would just be a bit much for us and everyone else reading it. So we decided to mix it up with creation myths and destruction myths. And yeah, that's ranging everything from the from current religions to older religions to the purely fictional, let's say. So yeah, I had Ayulin Dale, which is the beginning of the Tolkien world and all of that kind of thing. And boy, did that man like his new words. So I'm not going to do any of those, even though there's some lovely queer stuff in there from 2019 especially. I'm going to give you, just to kind of calm you from the angry queer poem, I'm going to give you this one, which was commissioned by the aforementioned priest. In fact, that's an interesting segue I hadn't considered. She is a hospital chaplain, and she wanted a secular piece to read to those experiencing, let's say, one of the biggest changes we have to go through and the most inevitable from every perspective. And that's quite a thing to be asked to do in the middle of lockdown, I think. But she needed it, and it turned out I needed to write it. This is still called Night Song because we just couldn't. Titles are fucking difficult. And we both kind of went back and forward for months. Like, what's this called? And then we went, let's go with the first title. It's called Night Song. It goes like this. It's the silence that binds you. Deep in the arid darkness, sleep slipping through hot fingertips, you reach for a lullaby that swerves your grip. You eddy in songless spirals, throat dry from wishes you dare not even whisper. You touch each surface as you pass, but stay untouched in turn, black-gloved, summoning nothing. And it's the silence finally that speaks, crackles into static, snags your sleeve in passing, the empty space, the jagged edges of white noise, the radio slipping stubbornly from its station. And so you slip yourself from the pacing round, ground yourself in a different kind of movement, finding yourself on the other side of the locked door for once. It's been a long day. Finally awake at this strange time, you take yourself to open air, dare any direction in darkness, trusting the road beneath numbly until you stumble among the reaching roots, the air cooler, moss-scented. Between the trees, a river gathers glitters to its singing self. Listen. It sings of the long ago hills, the springs that birthed it, the streams that twined together, weaving separate histories into something bigger. It sings of the green things, the roots nurtured even as they gave it structure, held its banks in gentle, strengthening grips. It sings of the caress of rain, new water gifting grace. It sings of the sun lifting mist, giving moisture back, the dance of particles in refreshing air. It sings of the places that cupped and shaped it, being shaped in turn, luxuriating through flatlands, hurrying down slopes, resting in pools before moving on. And it sings of the sea, that great gathering to come, wide and wild, salted and loud, resounding the new song it longs to chorus in. There's no rush, the water tells you, and despair is a dam stifling and dividing you from the dance you set your step to the moment you sprang forth. Wade in, it whispers, plant your feet, heave the detritus you've weaved into separate pieces, set them free to join the flow that takes them to the sea. And as the sky reflects the pledge of the coming sun, the first bird chuckles, sleepy, warming through the tune of a new day echoed by the river. Your limbs are heavy, aching from the weight of the dismantled dam, but as you head home, you can feel the hum in your own chest, the promise of a song you'll sing again. Thank you all so much. That's been me. I'm really looking forward to the last part of it. What a fab night. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, Faye. That was entrancing, I think is the right word for that one. Just kind of swaying slightly as I was listening to you talking. Time for another 10-minute break. Go for a wee, go for a drink, do whatever you want to do, unmute and chat, and you can tell Faye and everyone else how wonderful they are with your voices.
I'll attempt to put my camera back on now and see if the bandwidth holds.
I'm so excited to watch this back from the beginning because I've only just managed to get on. So everyone I've missed, I will watch you because I know that you'll have been amazing, and I just want to watch it. And yeah, basically,
it's been an absolutely stellar night so far. It's been wonderful.
Turns out I did miss poetry after all, so yeah, thank you all.
You
And
may
there's
not
still more to
always,
come.
you may not always be consciously aware of it, but it's always ticking away in the background.
We've brought Bob back.
Yes, mate.
Yes. More
Bob is back in town. Bob is back in town.
yeah, more from you, please, Bob. In future, please. Thank you.
Oh no, I meant listening to it, not writing any. Fuck that noise. That requires effort.
What, a 17-minute poem about
Bob, you
the
promised us
entirety
3
of the world?
albums.
I promised 4 and I've done 1.
You promised us 3 further albums.
We'll see. I've not been writing poetry in lockdown. I haven't been writing anything really. I've written like a couple of songs and that's about it. This is why I need in-person gigs to be back, because I realized in lockdown that 90% of my writing time is on the edges of being wankered on a train home from an open mic. And so with lockdown stopping me from doing that, it's stymied the flow.
Can you simulate being wankered on a train on the way home in your house?
You could just get slashed, walk till the edge of town, and then get a taxi back.
No, because that's irresponsible in lockdown.
What you need to do is.
I was thinking you could put the sofa in like a nice train seat formation and
sit in the most uncomfortable chair in the flat, leaning against the window, barely conscious.
People to
just put train sounds on.
And just like
put the sofa on a
put it on the
skateboard.
wanky thing. Yeah. Oh, that's yeah.
Find someone's armpit to lean into and sniff their unwashedness, and then cry as the train is late and delayed. Just emulate everything about it. I think you've got it, Bob.
While someone stands next to me going to sing
Oh,
the
you just
Northern
put
Rail
train sounds on
experience.
repeat on YouTube. I'm sure there's some out there.
I think
Guarantee there is.
the Northern Rail experience is breaking down at Hope past midnight.
Now the Northern Rail experience is
Which
being
legit happened to me.
The Northern Rail experience is being stranded in Bradford because the train you're supposed to be on hit a lamppost.
Does a train hit a lamppost?
The train hit
How?
a lamppost. The lamppost wasn't by the so I was on my way to Spoken Word in Halifax, which is great night, great night if you've not been and you can get there. And I was on the train to get the train to Halifax from York. You have to change at Bradford, and so I got to Bradford and then was informed about an hour and a half later that I would not be able to get a train on to Halifax because the train that I was supposed to be in had hit a lamppost.
It's better to be wankered on a train than on a wankered train.
Well, no, the thing was, then the replacement bus then went along, and and as we kind of like passed it, there's like we passed the site where the train had hit a lamppost, and it's like, yeah, okay, there's like some roses and some luminous tape, and there is indeed a lamppost that is missing its top half. But this lamppost was about 10 yards from the track, like on the other side of a wall. And there's just this train stopped on the, I have no idea how this train has done it. But it has nonetheless been ground to a halt by hitting a lamppost. That was the bizarrest explanation for why I couldn't. I had to ring up my work the next morning. Like, I'm not going to be able to make it in, and you're never going to believe me why. I'm stranded in Halifax because my train hit a lamppost.
Can I also a scientific explanation?
So, if any physicists among the assembled poets could explain that one for me.
Okay, so here's a scientific theory. There was a temporary temporal fissure in reality, which kind of bent space-time, between the lamppost and the train track. So for that brief moment, it kind of erased the space between the two and set the lamppost right next to the track. As soon as it crashed, it just,
Did the top half of the lamppost go spinning off into the unknown and create Narnia.
I saw a brilliant comic before that was like The Lion, the Witch, and the Flat Pack Wardrobe. And it's just says, well, I can see Narnia, but it's upside down.
It says that Aslan is the name of the wardrobe.
Also, I know Cas has gone, but can we please appreciate the fact that he has said the truth that the word sexy should only be applied to bass guitars? That like it is impossible to find other humans sexually attractive after listening to Prince's 70s output. It is just that's been my favourite line of the evening.
Incredible. Oh man.
But Prince never hit his 70s. He died before then.
Sorry, I missed all of that.
The 1970s.
I can't find the page. What is the page? And I was like,
Whiskey and Beards. It's whiskey without an E.
I've just said I'll ring her and tell her what it is rather than trying to send her a link.
The link is on the event on my poetry page and on probably other people's.
I just rang her, but I've just realised you've all just seen me on the phone, like ignoring all of you. So
it's okay, you weren't spotlighted just yet. You're fine. Yeah, I've also shared it, so just go on my profile on Facebook. I've shared it myself, so.
Yeah.
How it gets?
Someone in the live Facebook.
Cat! Yes!
Alright.
Eat my wire.
There's someone in the live Facebook thing who's spamming Malta like repeatedly in the chat. It is an entire thing.
That's weird.
Malta is an M-A-L-T-A.
Connor, do you want to ban them?
Are they teasing us? Are they Maltese?
Comments, holy shit.
Most of them are Malta.
Most of them are high for Malta, yes.
I think it's a Facebook comment glitch rather than like anything in general.
Oh no, if it's a glitch, can you...
Some of them have flags and some of them don't, so person who's watching
Oh
this,
my god, there's
spamming
so
some Malta,
many.
if you could stop, that would be lush.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, and there's a lot of other people saying stuff as
I
well.
know there's 3 separate Malta comments.
Yeah.
Are we a meme?
I've never been to Malta. Is it nice?
I briefly dated a guy who is now an investment banker in Malta, which really sums that up.
Okay.
I briefly dated someone from Malta.
Tom, I have a question.
Yo.
Because I miss like everything. What's the score with content warnings? Have they been done like generally, or do I need to
do them if you think that the poem needs it?
Okay.
All right, Tom. Since I missed your poem in the start of the second third, do I have time to run to the bathroom before you
Yes, go ahead. I will wait for you, and we'll start when you get back.
Oh God, now I've got pressure.
What?
Pressure's what you want.
We've got one high from Portugal breaking this up in the middle.
Just one. They're small, but they're there.
It's like when you throw in one, it's not unusual in the middle of What's New Pussycat.
Just going to ask quickly because I was going to do Cuddle Drive, but I've done Cuddle Drive a lot. I'm sure all of you are bored as shit of listening to it. So should I do something else?
No, do Cuddle Drive.
You sure?
Yes, because I've not heard it for ages.
Fair enough then.
And we could all probably do a cuddle. No, do with a cuddle.
Yeah.
Both. I could both do and done to me a cuddle.
How did you make cuddling weird?
I don't know. But also like I am at the stage of lockdown where it's like you wouldn't illegally download a hug, and I'm like, yes, I
definitely would illegally download a hug.
Oh no, I made a joke around those lines that I can't repeat.
You don't want to get some sort of like hug virus, though, do you? That's a problem.
Some hug virus. What you mean, like a pandemic type virus that's spread by contact?
My housemate said the same after I said about having a sore throat. They were like, "I think you've got corona. Why did you say that?" Just to clarify, I don't.
Oh, I had to do like a week locked in my bedroom while I was waiting on the results for coronavirus test. It turns out I just had regular flu.
I recently took a few weeks off work sick, and I keep emailing people back who inquired during that time going, sorry for not getting back to you earlier. I was unexpectedly out of office, brackets, not corona. Because if I don't, the first question everybody asks is it corona?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, been there, done that. Got the chronic chest issue.
All right, I can see Bob.
Shit, was I supposed to like announce myself?
I mean, yeah. But
Announce yourself in your Bugglebots hosting voice.
No, that's tonight. That's Tom's job.
I'm on the world's noisiest
I've taken
chair.
up far too much space in this.
Everyone gets my really shit Justin Roberts impression. Right.
Before we start,
everyone mute, please.
Oh, I was just about to. Okay, before we get started, okay,
go on then.
Try a little experiment because
yes.
I'm getting a bit stir crazy in the house. I would like to go out for a walk. So what I'm going to try and do is, Sven, I felt it too, and I'm me, so I definitely felt it. Before we get started again, can I try connecting via my phone because I need to go out for a walk, but I don't want to miss this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. All right. Doing it now.
It's fine. The only time frame I'm on is my own, so I make these rules. I can do what I want.
Right. Tell you what, I'm just gonna try and get connected. I mean, I don't want to hold people up, so I'm just gonna do what I need to do silently. That's what I'm gonna do.
Cool. Whilst Ben's doing that, I'm gonna give you another poem because me sitting here staring at you all awkwardly isn't good for anyone. So I'm gonna do a different poem, and then I'm gonna do Cuddle Drive, cause I can. This is a cute poem that, how do I describe this? It's difficult. My brain goes to weird places when I'm asked on a date and have to think of ideas. I go to really weird places, and this is one of them. This is called Pigs Can't Look Up. Pigs can't look up, but we could pick a pig up one night and raise them into the night sky and tilt them ever so gentle. We can line that pig's eyes up with the stars. Oh, just gonna let Ben in. Imagine seeing a thing you never knew existed. All these possibilities and avenues for exploration just clicking into place. I imagine that pig cries and drinks in every second as we hold them there, pig eyes wide, connecting every celestial dot and mapping out whole new constellations. Avenues opening. This pig has a different future now. This pig will, when we eventually close their eyes to this wonder, run to tell their little pig friends about what they saw. The other pigs won't believe them, but that pig will know. They will never stop knowing, and we will never forget. We have a different future now. What if pigs could be astronauts? What if they colonized planets? What would their habitats look like? What if we shared a night? Just you and me, upturning one pig after another. Do you think it would be enough? Thanks. That was that one. I can officially say I have a poem on pigs. I've got a pig poem. It's a pig poem. All right, I'm going to do Cuddle Drive, and then we're going to move on to listen to some people that aren't me. I don't have a libido. I have a cuddle drive. Cruising through space at a casual 45, not stopping or starting or anything so contrived. I don't need anything else. This is where I thrive. Cuddles, my friend, are enough to revive. Because you see it on TV. Everywhere, everyone needs to Barnum indifferent to this plight. And it makes me feel quite alone. The media will have you believe that this is society's backbone, but honestly, out of proportion, this shit has been blown. I'm also a big proponent of cuddling your friends and showing them affection not as a means but an end, because we need to love each other. We need to make amends and usher in a world where cuddling is the trend. I hop back on board and set off towards the stars. And you take my hand as we rocket past Mars. We're safe up here. This galaxy is ours. My cuddle drive is full and we're going to travel far. I'm a spacefaring, planet-hopping, new age romantic, and you're making my heart beat really quite frantic. Just let me say I don't want to be so pedantic, but you swell my cuddle drive and make it gigantic. So come with me, and I'll show you the universe. New planets and peoples and cultures you can immerse. Or bed down at night and binge Steven Universe and cuddle, of course. Of a debt I need to reimburse. You showed me it was okay to keep my feet on the ground. You helped offload my issues and you turned me around. I'll never be the same. I've found my new sound, and all thanks to you, my love, is earthbound. Thanks. That was another poem that isn't about pigs. We're done with the pig poems now. Pigless poems to come.
Unmute yourself.
All right. Next person up, the first performer for this third, is an old-fashioned romantic. But between her typewritten lost letters and hand-dried flowers, this punk princess is a fiercely passionate spoken word artist. Sharing stories of love, loss, and internal mental battles with herself and the world around her, she will show you a world deeper than your darkest thoughts. Please welcome Bethany Rose!
Hello. So I wasn't prepared for doing this until about 7 o'clock. So I've got some work in progress pieces and I've got some new pieces. I tend to write about angry feminist pieces and mental health. So overall general trigger warnings are for PTSD, self-harm, panic attacks, sexual assault, and an angry feminist if that needs a trigger warning. And I don't name anything, so I don't have any names for you. This, my love, is home-cooked poison, a murmur of those who once wore your rusted crown, and down they fell into a richer darkness, deeper than the trauma of your former life, of your former strife. Always remember, a viler day keeps the voices at bay. So drink up. The past will be here soon. Thank you. This one is a new way of working for me, this one. Most of it, the lines are taken from adverts between 1920 and 1970. And so I've filled in the gaps and written this piece. And this is my feminist piece. Men ask, is she pretty? Not is she clever, for a woman could never do the job like I could. Nice hair, nice eyes, nice teeth. Keep her where she belongs. Longing for a purpose, longing for an education, longing for her right to vote, for her right to have an opinion. Show her it's a man's world. The chef does everything but cook because that's what wives are for. Don't worry, darling, it's nice to have a girl around the house. Not a brain cell working, except for that eternal primping and powder, and louder she shouts for her right to exist, for her right to have a life. She was a one-date girl. This is no shape for a girl. Cigarettes are like women. The best ones are always thin and rich. Is it always illegal to kill a woman? Because innocence is sexier than you think. Thank you. And then my final piece is my mental health piece. If you've not seen me perform before, I have a show called Dear Body, and it is an apology and an acceptance letter to my body from my mind. And this is sort of, it's not a part two, but it's along similar lines. You point at the scars which line my arms and ask, who hurt you? I look you in the eye and reply that once upon a time I didn't want to die. And so I did. I hurt me. And this is where it gets complicated. I hurt so I wouldn't hurt anymore. And 1 or 2 turns into 10s and scores, and I can't keep track of them. I remember my first panic attack. Intoxicated in the early hours, sitting on cold pavements outside closing bars. A night of sticky floors and cheap vodka. Drink it by the double because trouble is on its way, and I told you it wasn't safe. Take a shot. Take 1, 2, 3 floor. I don't remember leaving. I came outside for quiet, but the air is too thick and my lungs have forgotten how to breathe. The music's too loud and I can't feel the beat, and then I'm sat in the dark surrounded by feet and still lit cigarettes. Broken bottles dropped in puddles and, excuse me love, have you got a light if it's not too much trouble? Too much trouble, there's too much noise, too many voices, and I can't work out which are outside my head, and I need to go home to my nice warm bed, but my body is stuck. I'm drunk on wild words that I've heard 1,000 times before, and now stuttered and slurred they come spilling out, and they no longer make sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. That was beautiful as always. I have missed your voice greatly. It's been, that was wonderful. Also, nice to see your cats making cameos as you were doing that as well. It's always nice to see them as well. Moving swiftly onwards. This next poet is a queer poet and artist, where are my words, from Bristol. His work draws inspiration from the new weird movement and explores addiction, loss, and the complicity of privilege through the lens of horror B-movies, punk, and doomsday apocrypha. He is in a bitter custody dispute with the moon and is working through the bureaucracy of the end of the world in the form of a feature-length musical. His debut collection, The Bible 2, is due out with Verve Poetry Press in November 2021. Please welcome Sam Grudgings.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for having me. I got 2 poems for you. They're brand new, and I'm really sorry that they're kind of not too on the queer theme. As a queer poet, anything I write is inherently queer, and I'm following in Mr. Kinsman's noble footsteps in queering up the Bible with my new manuscripts. So there should be some of that, and it's some stuff from there and some stuff not from there. Because my poems aren't like outwardly like bi, I did decide to kind of be as extra as I could. That's supposed to be glitter. Anyway, set design, never heard of her. This first one, just so you know, there is a content warning for the second poem for suicidal ideation and self-harm references. I will cover it when I get to it, but I just want to kind of go, this first one is okay. The only reference might need a trigger is for Dolly Parton. If you're annoyed that we have to share the same space as such a wonderful human as Dolly Parton, then I'm sorry this poem contains Dolly Parton. I will not apologise for Dolly Parton. This is mainly for anyone who's ever been to Bristol, in general, just because there are a few references to Bristol. It doesn't have a name yet. It goes like this. I believe in Big Jeff. I also believe that if you haven't seen Big Jeff at a concert, you were never at any of the good ones, and you have no proof of ever even having seen music. Only circumstantial evidence. But then I also believe that elitism over taste in music is absolutely fucking pointless. Listen to whatever the fuck makes your heart sing. Most especially, listen to Fire by Waxahachie or The Thunder Answered Back by Gabby's World, because I believe that if you sing these in the shower, you actually get superpowers. I believe that everyone deserves forgiveness, but that it is earned, not owed. I believe that friendships never really die, the same as with love. You always carry something about them with you. I believe that this is both the best and worst thing about knowing anything. That said, I don't believe that we really know anything. We just make scarily accurate guesses all the time. I believe there is a way of making this world better. I do not believe there is a single person can know the solution alone. In the meantime, I believe in art and poetry and dance and music. It seems strange to believe in things that we can evidence exist, but with everything going on, I think it's necessary to have faith in something that you can prove so that at least you'll be right sometimes. I believe that when you die, after you have experienced you through the eyes of everyone you have ever interacted with, there is a seedy bar with candles on all the tables, possibly above the Dark Horse pub in Moseley. There is a dim spotlight and there is an open mic waiting for you. I believe that your story is the most anticipated event of the open mic. In the corner, Diogenes and Dolly Parton are sharing a drink waiting for your moment. No, Dolly Parton is not dead, but she is an angel, so she definitely has the ability to be in two places at once. I believe in ghosts. I just wish I didn't. I believe in aliens. I just wish they actually wanted to visit us. I believe in God, all 9,772 miles of him. I believe I have seen God read at a poetry open mic once. I believe that you are a better poet than God ever was. I believe that this is all a simulation, one that's resetting itself to adapt to us becoming aware of it, which is how I explain Mandela effects, deja vu, and bumblebees. I believe stealing of philosophies from popular sci-fi movies is okay. I believe that if life was not a simulation, I would not be deserving of friends like you. You are my cheat codes that make this easier. I believe that this is a list of things that people will be hard pressed to disagree with. I don't believe it makes it any less true. Thanks. Poetry. As I said, content warning for this one, it does have some references to suicidal ideation, wanting to kill or to fuck or to fist God, and some actual bodily harm as well. So just content warning for that. It is called Redeemer, and obviously we've had some wonderful poets speed reading. This is less grindcore, more heavy metal, so we'll give this one a go. Everything known about dying is from first-hand accounts and reliable accounts. So I am not recommending first-hand experience, but I am researching methods of resurrection. Rediscovering artifacts from the undertow teaches me better about swallowing evenings to build up a tolerance for the dark. In the morning, I am renovating my body with knives. My skin smiles the keloid grin of a goemon of attrition. The problem with not knowing the arcane of yourself is getting confused with who you could be. I have been fulfilling prophecies because I am too scared to take chances. I can feel the succulent under my chest, avoiding my gaze, and answer honestly that I have only ever been approximately human. I dream of God killing himself. I turn my hands into knives for just such a purpose. They have to be God-killing knives. I absolve my stomach in the shower and scrub my gentle soft clean of any guilt. My mouth is an empty nest, hollow of prophecy where something good once was. If I am to offer my hands for anything, they must be hewn from my body. The callous, vicious rhetoric of self-sacrifice in context of having nothing. I dare not ask for either crosses or consolations. I simply present myself before God, knowing I must kill him or become him. I open my heart to the grisly task. Behold my needs, which I know not myself. See and do according to tender mercy. If I have been made in his image, then my hands are God weapons by design. If he has the means of killing himself, then so do I. If I have been made with the intention to kill God, I must trust God's holy script and not falter, plunge my hands into the neck of God and lovingly cradle his head as he disappears. I accept the mantle of God, and though its burdens are infinite, after everything it will be peaceful to have the power to make amends and yet no desire to do so. I adore all his purposes without knowing them. I am silent. I offer myself in sacrifice. I yield myself. I have no other desire than to accomplish what I am intended for. Teach me to pray. Pray there is a God in me. Does my awkward not mar the process of apotheosis? A man still held mortal by all the ways in which he went wrong. I was not cut out for this. I am so almost sorry for the ghost I made him be, and honor him as someone who cursed me of sleep. It's nostalgic to me, being used to seeing empty houses as part of my father's work, disenfranchised bodies as real estate for the old ones. I am told I have it in me to change. In response, I offer the solace that I am immune to knives. I I'm admired for how brave I am to accept my failings in such an artful way. Applause ripples the god body, consuming itself in the eagerness of anonymity. I am told the mouths erupting in my skin are blessings that I didn't allow myself to feel the weight of. We limit ourselves to the hungers that we can manage. I am told that if my body becomes mouths and knives, that is because I am chosen. I dare not ask what for, not now. Not after all the prayers that I have hit reply all to with, sure thing, if you think it would change anything. I'm told I can be a martyr. I respond with grudging acceptance. I will, if it means I can make it out of this one alive. Thank you so much. If you want to see more of me, you can follow me in real life. Keep your distance because the virus is still around. I'm down in Bristol. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and all the other things. And next Friday, I'm with the wonderful Fay Roberts, who I was intoxicated as ever by, for Hammer and Tongue. There'll be a slam. There'll be Elizabeth McCann. There'll be poetry. There'll be words. There'll be pain. You think this is extra with the lighting and the glitter? Wait till you see what I do with 20 minutes. Thank you so much for having me, Tom. You're a blessing. I'm going to go and cook some food, but I'm going to keep this on. I'm just letting you know that I haven't eaten yet. Thanks for having me. I'll see you soon.
You are always an experience, Sam, and that was fucking phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you.
The first time I saw you was the Say Out Slam, I think, where you did the poem on the bot that wrote button poetry.
Yes.
It was an experience, and you haven't stopped being an experience since.
Good. That's what I learned to sing. Well, thank you for having me along. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Reset. Okay. The next poet is a writer and creator from Leeds with a string of publishing credits including Strix, Brigwalter, Picaroon and Laldy. They have a pamphlet, Shul, coming out 2021 from Maytree Press. Please welcome F.R. Kesby!
Sometimes I worry about you because you say I taste like champagne. To you, I taste like what they drink at 50 grand weddings, what wide-eyed graduates think as they clutch the most expensive piece of paper that they will ever own, what they drink in London bars so expensive you have to remortgage your house just to cross the threshold. Sometimes I worry about you because you say I taste like champagne. But I'm from Leeds. I buy my clothes in Primark and I call Nando's a restaurant. And I have barners about using bread cakes, not bread rolls, to make sarnies. And I work in a fucking call centre. And sometimes I worry about us. Because being with you feels a bit like when the waitress says, enjoy your meal, and I say, you too. Or like the long minutes chatting to boiler repairmen about a football match I definitely did not watch. Or like when I walk into a room and sit down and then realise it's not where I'm supposed to be, but I'm too embarrassed to leave again. And sometimes I worry about us because I love you in a way that songwriters never sing about and poets never write about. There's no words for me to use so that I can make it real to you. But mostly, I worry about me. About inflicting on you all the insecurity, the wobbly lines and the grey areas, about the way I can't always speak when you need me to, about the way my facial expression doesn't always match my emotions, or that I don't always laugh at your jokes or say thank you when you're kind. But mostly, I worry about me, because I kind of think you taste like Yorkshire tea. Thank you. Feel free to unmute and clap and stuff because I require validation. As you can probably tell, I'm reading off my computer while my laptop is balanced on 3 pillows while sitting in the world's noisiest chair, having drunk 3.5 gins. So bear with me if things look a little bit physically wobbly. I'm going to do a general trigger one at the beginning of the rest of my set because I am useless at remembering them before individual poems. So the most of the rest of the set is not as cheery as that one. It is majoritively about grief. So basic trigger one for that. Also trigger one for skeletal things, breaking bones, body, like physical illnesses, mental illnesses, graveyards, and suffocating. So, you know, all the good stuff. I wake and fold my origami skeleton back into shape, redo the creases that had come loose, gift wrap the exposed joints. I wake and rise tentatively as blood rushes to places it ought already be, caught in the act of sleeping on duty, the stampede to position a painful drum. I wake and work free, a jaw clenched from a night of keeping quiet, find a voice behind aching teeth and feel it rattle against my skull. I wake and make the decision again to breathe, to drag from somewhere in this bag of broken bones a thing called life, to lock myself in behind the exoskeleton of a smile.
Woo!
Thank you. As was mentioned, I do have a book coming out in, it's on the 30th of April this year. All the poems I've been today are from that book. So if you like what you hear, I am going to stick my link tree in the chat, and then you can find my Facebook page, my Instagram, all that kind of stuff. I grieve for you here, in the emptiness of a dark night. Grief for you is that moment in deep water when you have to make the decision to swim up or down. You know you should go up, but down is so tempting. Depth and darkness and quiet, and sometimes up is so much harder. I grieve for you here, in the sound of others' laughter. Grief for you is flashes of light through trees, the feel of sand between toes, a hot bath enveloping your body, the sound of children's shoes slapping concrete. It's sitting alone in your favourite cafe with your favourite book and that first sip of coffee. I grieve for us here, in the hollow of my chest that I fill with prescriptions and food, in the hands that ache every morning and remind me of yours, every bump, every twinge in these breasts that I sometimes don't even want reminds me how I wasn't there at the end. I came to your grave on crutches to apologise. Thank you.
Oh.
I just heard a weird noise of,
Oh no, that was me going, oh, sorry.
It's all right, it was appreciated, but strange.
That's me.
This is another one about gravesides. A lot of this is about grief because the last 3 years or so has been a lot of that sort of thing. So apologies for that. I've been exercising it all through poetry recently. I sit on the grass to read to you, feel the tickling of the blades and the dampness of crushed plants beneath me and the cold rising through the earth. It's a beautiful day, and the sun catches on your name, turning gold letters into glittering fairy lights that dance across my white pages. I think there are worse places to spend eternity, and somewhere underground, I feel you are agreeing. I bury my fist in the earth, push away compacted dirt, digging fingers through the earth to reach to you. Your hand closes on mine as I am shoulder deep in earth and I slip my head under the surface, take lungfuls of soil. There you are. I see your face again, smell your hair, touch your skin, hear your voice softly in my ear. I tell you all the things you have missed. I show you my ring, read out footy scores, roll your eyes at my mother. A bird sings and a man coughs, and I am back above ground, sitting on your grave and looking at a line of blossom-filled trees. I think there are worse places to spend eternity, but of course, that is not how this works. I'm going to do one final one that's slightly less horrifically grief-ridden to let the next person not have to start off on that note, because that would be unfair. This is beat, and it's in a really unusual style for me. So if I suddenly start pulling faces, it's because I'm not used to this kind of performance. So it's a bit more high energy than I'm used to. Can you feel it? This house is not brick and mortar. Its walls are those of flesh chambers. Can you feel it with all their warmth? The beat, can you feel it, lives here in all its forms? Can you feel it? This heart home, this space of hours echoes with it. Can you feel it? Family, lovers, all of you, can you feel it? Our lifeblood, stay. Stay with the beat. Can you feel it and know this heart home is fed by you? Can you feel it and feed you? Stay. Here in all its forms, the beat, can you feel it, is eternal. If you can feel it. Thank you. I am Fay Kesby. Please hit my link tree, have a look for my book when it comes out, because it's coming out soon, and I'm going to have a massive launch party, after which I will get embarrassingly drunk. So thank you very much, and it's been a great night. I've loved hearing you all. Bye.
Thank you, Faye. That was. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna steal Fay Roberts' noise. Oh. You were absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to get your book. Coming out around the same time mine is as well. I don't know the exact date for it, but it's also going to be in April. So that's going to be fun. Oh. Next up. Words. I'll start that again. At Yellow Leather Jacket Poet on Instagram is a Bristol Slam champion from Bath. Her work covers mental health, disability, LGBTQIA+ issues, gender, loss, and equality. Please welcome, once again, Kathryn O'Driscoll!
Oh, hell yeah!
Hello. Thank you. I signed up today to try and bring some ace representation, and it looks like I didn't need to, so that's great, because I edited my poem, and it was 6 minutes and it's now 9. So I'm not going to do that because I'm not quite sure what has happened. So instead, I am just going to do 2 poems for my fiance Kasha, because I love her. But we are a fun intersection of gay and disabled. So that inevitably has a huge effect on our life. So I'm going to be talking about disability. So trigger warnings for that. EDS specifically, pain, painkillers, suicidality and PTSD are mentioned briefly because that is just my life. This first poem doesn't have a title yet. Maybe it should be called To Be, because it references our marriage and we're not yet actually married. Okay. Our bed is our marriage. I come cradling my heart, hacksaw hewn and weeping blood, wrapped in sandpaper and nailed half shut. She helps me take off the sodden bandages and tries to think of a disassembled heart like a clothing pattern, waiting to be sewn back together. She comes limping, hip wrenched out of socket and pushed aside like her needs all too often. It grates bone on bone, carving out the letters EDS like a cave painting. She staggers in sideways to drag it behind her, trying to keep the damage minimal. I help her lie flat so she can relocate the joint. Our bed houses both the tornado of pain destroying all reality outside of agony and the quietness of the exhausted aftermath. She, lying slick with sweat and a hip tentatively holding, but too tired to deal with the shoulder, now tugging away from its seam. And me, lying in the post-apocalyptic world of another PTSD panic attack with sensory overload spiking into my senses as we fingerspell, it hurts, it hurts. And through vase-full eyes whisper, I can't do this anymore. Throats stuffed with used tissues and bone splinters. Our bed is our sanctuary. And sometimes it sees more violence than sleep time. But we wake up with hands laying on hands so lightly, holding on where it doesn't hurt to ensure we don't pull something loose in the night. And today, maybe the meds will work. And maybe my mind won't wander down dark alleyways trying to pick a fight just to hurt me. Today, we probably won't be pain-free, but we'll still be a team, a family, fighting softly under the covers, gently in the bed of our marriage. Concrete. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, both of these poems are brand new. I've never performed them before, so hope that you're enjoying them. And the next one is about EDS, Cash's main condition, and what that means. Yeah, okay. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. An inherited condition that affects connective tissues in skin, tendons, ligaments, blood vessels, internal organs, and bones. Most commonly perceived as being super flexible, patients often experience frequent and painful partial or total dislocations of any and all joints in their body. Tonight, my fiance is taking 14 pills for pain relief after one of her vertebrae tried to tug out, subluxed, and every back muscle went into spasm to try and protect the spine from itself. The doctor whitens, as chalky as the pills as we explain her condition. Again. She takes the cocodamol reluctantly. She's addicted to them, so usually she just puts up with the pain that the amitriptyline doesn't touch. But tonight the pain is falling out of an aeroplane without the hope of a parachute, and we are bracing for impact. Tonight she is ordered to bed rest. She is exhausted from pain, but she can't sleep. At 2:43 in the morning, her hip slinks out of its cavity, leaves a hole like a pulled tooth gum, and slides, not neatly out to the side, which can be reconfigured quickly as if she was complicated Meccano, but forces itself underneath her pelvis, as if it was a child trying to catch a glimpse of the back of its own head by spinning around quickly and then back again. The hip rumbles, shoving aside muscle tissue and the tense strings of nerve and tendon. They twang and sing out a shout reverberating up through the spine and out through the fingers. She stands with her forearms bracing the wall. And I tell her it doesn't matter when her tears strain the paintwork. We don't always get the luxury of one thing at a time. Tonight, I remind her to breathe, rub her arm where it's safe, fetch the emergency in doses, and assure her that they will bring the pain down enough to sleep soon. Any second now, love, any second. I do not know that. She lifts a foot, raises to a 90 degree, turns it outward, tries to realign the framework of a human. The hip grows back along the bone into line, leaving claw-marked grooves and thunderstruck nerves still shuddering. The ball smacks against the back of the goal with a sound like a bird's head crushed by a tire. I only hear the start of it as she yelps, collapses back onto the bed, trying to aim her fall so as not to dislocate again. If we are lucky, tonight she will find a position to sit in so that gravity will do some of the work that her collagen-deficient tissue is failing to do. If we are lucky, a hip dislocation and her spasming back will be the most of her worries today. If we are lucky, the pain will be brief, but so intense that her fatigue will take control and she will be knocked out by the trauma of it all. But Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is not a synonym for luck. She cannot sit in the position her hips need because of her back. She has to take the medicine that will put her to sleep for a while. We have no other choice. Any second now, baby, any second, the meds will kick in, I promise, any second now. I stroke her hair until exhaustion takes her. I avoid holding her hand now. I am used to noticing when her fingers have disassembled themselves while she's looking the other way. I lay my hands over her heart. The upper ribs have never dislocated so far, but they can. They can pop lungs, burst arteries. Everything in this body is mobile, is movable, every joint a danger zone, organs worn down, skin doughy and easily torn, bones shifting and muscles tight trying to carry on. And the painkillers relax the muscles so something else slips and she wakes suddenly as costochondritis fists her heart. As the rib muscles contract and don't leave space enough for the beat or her breath. And I kiss her palms and promise the meds are just about to kick in. Any second now, baby, any second. And when she's out again, I thank God that today was a good day. That the meds did kick in. That the mercy of unconsciousness is still an option. We both know that this condition only worsens. But tomorrow, when we call the doctor, he will ask her again to explain her condition. Again, he won't understand the fragility of her joints, and he'll say it would be near impossible to survive that much pain. Completely improbable that a joint could move without her doing anything. Read her notes, I say, read her notes, read all of them, desperately hoping that one day there will be enough understanding that when we call to say her spine is realigning, we won't have a 4-hour delay of proving it is possible while she's screaming. I keep hoping that one day a doctor will listen to her. I keep hoping. Any second now, baby. Any second. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Kathryn. That was very educational. I'm not also very versed on EDS, so that was a cheat sheet, shall we say. I saw Fay say earlier that they're going to print this poem out and wave it at every medic that they ever interact with, and yeah, that's fair. Okay, moving swiftly onwards. The next poet is an international poet, mentor, artist, and bird brain whose work tells stories of the struggles and hopes of what it is to be human. He gave me a really short bio, so I have filled it out. These are my edits. He runs Inkbomb, a place where poetry and excellent video editing intersect, and his collection, This Is Your Tragic Backstory, is also being published by Whiskey and Beards later this year. Please give it up for Sven Stears!
Hello. I really don't want to have to follow Kathryn. Fuck a pot noodle, Jesus. Oh, you've made me cry now, Kathryn, so consider that favour returned. Cool, right, so moving on as best I can. This is my literal LGBT history poem. It is a true story. It is called Graffiti on the Underground. 9 tombs underground, 58 meters down between 2 points of oblivion, ignorance and bliss. A kid you will never know the name of sprints down the railway with a can of spray paint in his backpack and so much more baggage than just that. How he got here is a secret he will take to his grave, but his purpose is emblazoned in every fiber of his being. Threads passed down to him from the disco queens of New York. There is glitter and mirror ball in his veins. Pump to the break, pump to the break, pump to the break, beating that kick drum 85 times a minute and rising. This is his turn and he can feel it. As he dodges third rails, jails, and the tunnel dragons that stalk these caverns with their metal whale song, death throes rattling all around him is noise and heat and darkness. He is alone and he is calm. This is not a spectator sport. There are no awards, no bystanders, no witnesses, no gallery is big enough to contain this. This is the opposite of an ivory tower. Anyone can make it here, and no one can see it, save for the whiplash flashes that streak past the corner of your attention as you shuffle your suit home again, once again in the belly of the beast, finger to your collar for release. There, though, through the forest of people, for a split of a split of a split of a second, beckons the proof that he was there before it is stolen into the pitch between your reality and his. There is greatness in his facelessness, impermanence. He whispers freedoms onto a wall with a soft air hiss, flecks of colour that beat back the grades a little bit more, 1 more inch of the urban sprawl as he summons the deep from within, all that history, that prism, that spectrum, that rainbow in his blood, then shares it with the world in secret. Every stroke and shape is a battle cry screamed into a pillow, a silent horizon framed in the headlamp of a future stolen, a smile in the face of hate, a tear in the eyes of a love denied, until a train, with all the weight of the society it carries, rounds a corner and turns that headlamp into the eyes of a deer before turning it off completely. The man stood in front of me, knew that kid once. Used to paint his name on massive letters on the sides of buildings and skate parks, on rail cars and in tunnels. You can see it in his eyes when he speaks about anything. He has seen so much and would tell you so little. He has been beaten into not letting his mask slip. He is faceless. When he looks over his shoulder, he shifts his weight, awkward and fearful, like a train is bearing down upon us, and paints me a picture then of a rainbow he never quite let the sun shine on before. Thank you. Cool, thank you. I don't have much time for bants, because both of my poems are like 3.5 minutes long. So I'm going to launch straight into this next one. You might have heard it before. It's called, what's it called again? Fuck it, I'm just going to do it, because apparently I've forgotten the name of the poem. We were tykes riding bikes on our childhood estate, constantly plotting to run from home and escape, but who are we kidding? We had everything. A picture-perfect painting of Middle England, of bulldogs and terriers terrorising pedestrians, or a muddle of muddy clothes in the throes of a play fight, or a whirling dervish immersed in a skirmish in earnest. It was perfect, like a first kiss. I remember mine was with Harriet at the school disco. My parents thought it was the cutest, and I was 10 then, oblivious to my innocence. Back when a true connection took mere seconds, we weren't fickle. All it took was a bag of pogs, some Pokemon cards, and a bicycle. We would ride those roads to a call to our homes, and were doled our tea and told to go play till the daylight went away. We were 9/10 energy, and the rest was grey's knees. It was all we could perceive that these days would never cease, and when our parents told us to be gone before we knew it, you could have skewered the disbelief. But they weren't wrong. They never were. Not back then, anyway. So 5 years on, and I was never part of passing footballs in the park. More for drinking red wine in graveyards till way past dark, me and the whole crew, probably wearing more black than we were supposed to. We were smoke in a storm cloud, either being too loud or hidden in shrouds, and yeah, we thought we were pretty cool. On school nights, we'd meet outside BK, then make a nuisance of ourselves if the police came. I remember Annika, face paint, running in the rain while she was running the same from a copper trying to stop her from playing her favourite game of bothering the Christians, preaching on the corner, but they never caught her. She was always faster than a disorder in her wake. These were our first tastes of alcohol and rebellion. Maidstone's little hellion, skipping school because it was never kind to us, but it wasn't in a classroom that we learnt what a friend was. See, friends were forever, or until they lost track of each other. I have searched for Annika everywhere, but your guess is as good as mine as to what happened to her. So 5 years on, again, and we're nightlife then, using student debts to find new friends, drowning sorrows that hadn't happened yet, like we were hedging our bets in a future bereft, and doing our best to arrest the dawn as it crept in, but it was more than a morning we were stalling. Really, we were holding back on the question marks in our spines that time bent in as it flung us in unexpected directions. We invented the answers by imbibing harder of Dutch-courage beer jackets that made us bolder. This is how we found out who we were in the purr of the pub and the slur of the party. Me and Luke Carey. We were 9-cent sarcasm, and the rest was running on empty. When we walked home on kebab meat streets with after-party offal under our feet, there were sunsets in our peace. Like when Luke got leukemia, and the streets got amnesia. But I swear, life wasn't supposed to be a goodbye. More like a bike ride full of near misses and first kisses. So, hello, friends. I haven't met yet. My bike is parked outside, and I'll race you to the fork in the road. Just promise me you'll take it slow. Thank you.
Oh, you've made Jonathan cry this time. It's not Kathryn, but it's Jonathan that's crying this time. Sven, you are a magician. Thank you. That was fucking stellar. Yeah, just taking a second to level out again. That was fucking brilliant. Oh, right, time for the last headliner of the night. He is a poet, festival producer, and editor-in-chief for Whiskey and Beards Publishing. Since 2013, he has performed across the south of England, including Margate Soul Festival, Wise Words Festival, and London's Let's Kill It. His work touches on themes of cultural waste, depression, and the uncomfortable in the everyday. In 2016, he released his first short story collection, I Am Not a Well Person. His first collection of poetry, Promise Me the Journey Back, was released in April 2018. In 2019, he spent a year as an associate artist in Open School East, studying neurodiversity in the arts and developing as a visual artist. He is the beard behind Whiskey and Beards. He also owns the whiskey behind Whiskey and Beards. He is the single creative driving force behind Poeticon, which he's about to tell you about in a minute. He is a bear in a human suit. He is Connor Sansby!
Hey! I am not the sole creative force behind Poeticon. It is a team of really cool people that I'm really excited to work with, including Tom and Sven, who are in this call that you've seen throughout the night. We've also got Gemma Baker, we've got Chris Campbell. I cannot wait to sort of unveil what's happening. It's going to be a 2-day conference on the future of spoken word in the UK post-COVID. How can we, to borrow a phrase from Joe Biden, build back better? What can we do in terms of new presentations, new formats, better accessibility? We want to hear from people. Like, if you have a 15-minute rant about how people should pick venues that have better access to the stage area, please shoot us a message. If you want to spend an hour having a panel discussion with people about how to price a poetry event properly, like, let us know. It's supposed to be another thing following on from like Winchester Fest, which is a big like let's all get together and do things online. It's another like thing there, and I think quite often the information behind the poetry industry is hidden under the surface, and it ultimately harms the industry. So we're trying to have these conversations in public. Let us know. I'm Connor Sansby, word stuff on Facebook, because I word goodly. Yeah, this has been such a great night, and there's so many people that I like absolutely love that have been on tonight that I normally I'd be like going through my set list and like making sure I'm okay, because huge anxiety problems, but I've just been listening today and it's so good. I'm going to try and do the whole set as like one big long poem. There are breaks in it. It is different pieces assembled from different avenues of writing. So my content warning is metaphorical depictions of suicide, drowning, class warfare, and my growing fatigue with the end of the world, as well as intentionally provocative language used to illustrate that people are beautiful regardless of traditional beauty standards, and sometimes because of that. Cool. I will not write lockdown poetry. I will not write lockdown poetry. I will not write about how scared or lonely I am. I will not write that I feel like I'm forgotten or that I want to be forgotten. I will not write about how little joy there is in this. I won't write about how I don't want to be at home, how I don't want to be outside, how I don't want to be. I will not write cheap platitudes about how much I love essential workers. I will not write about how essential they've been all along. I will not clap for the NHS. I will not bemoan clapping. I will not write lockdown poems. I will not write lockdown poems. I will not write lockdown poems. And when you first place your foot back on land, the scalpel of sunlight gets to work, peeling skin from muscle, from bone, from blood. I would like to find myself on solid ground once more. But this golden mile is endless and uncertain. Deserts have been built from the hand of God, but I hold the tides in the beating of my heart, and I fear nothing but boiling salt. I hold hell to be an eternity encased in salt, taken from the sea and stretched under the sun. I've Never known life without hearing seagulls. Their off-key singing has been the soundtrack to my life. It's barely even audible, except when everything is still and their voices carry from the horizon. It's made me think about movies. Do the characters not hear the music playing under themselves because it's all they've ever known? Perhaps they're so used to the sound palette that even soft, tense strings don't provide them with a warning. I want to follow someone for years, playing music from behind the curtain. Could I make them cry on cue, fall in love, propose marriage to strangers? Could I make them feel everything with the perfect note? I feel like poetry is the art of placing music into people's lives, setting up the crescendo so they break down crying in the middle of a super drug 6 months later when the words are long forgotten, screaming, by God, yes, this shampoo means love. See, we break people, us poets, with prickly words and our soft, tense strings. Each Thursday for the last year, I have wandered to the beach and stripped naked before the waves, before the sunrise, and walked into the sea to see if I can still breathe water like amniotic fluid. Funny thing, you can't breathe the seaside like I have without a little bit of salt in your veins, the kind that breaks metal and men, changes us into something so unlike ourselves. I have turned blue under the sea, the color of the sky above me. The sand seeks out a body. It knows when you two have been broken by the ocean, cast into a trillion exit wounds, and rebuilds you. Under the sun. The sun. And we shall never have Paris, but we might have Margate Sands, our summer nights by ocean's side, still and holding hands. And the seaside smells of sulfur, but you say it smells of shit. And with a sigh, I smile and say, you will get used to this. But you could never stand the salt so much. And what if I don't want to? What if all the time that I spend here, I'm just reflecting you? And we make our way to swarming bars, spend our night on double drinks. And I think it's almost scary how your feet slide their way to me. We kiss. And Paris is so far away, but your hand is next to mine. And I watch and wait silently for something like a sign. You say I'm too cerebral, and I ask, what does that mean? While people are busy being human, you're trying to understand the human being. Slowly you start to move, heading for your train, and though you might leave me, I know this sand will stay. I could never strand myself away from all I've known. And we shall never have Paris, but we shall both find home. Do you think this place exists outside the sunlight? Do the streets unthread themselves from the building when the moon shines? Does this place exist when London stops calling, or were we forgotten? This place only came into existence when they cast their gaze over, remembered the land has an ending, that we all came from the sea, crawled upon land, upon our bellies, and tasted sun for the first time, screaming in rapture. If they wanted to get away from the city, they could have chosen anywhere on the compass, but they shipped themselves on high-speed rail, took the path of least resistance. On Margate Sands, I am less than nothing. The indelible weight of ink on pages. You can trace the footsteps of a pen by the marks it leaves behind, and with this, I follow the marking of a man and his dog crawling from the mud. Behind me, the pubs lie as caged beasts, filled with the promise of long nights and slow, warm death, not unlike smoke inhalation. I've told people I still smoke, but truthfully, it's been 6 months since my last, and I've started to forget my lighter on these walks where the land forgets itself. I've torched all the books I've ever read, drowned all the others, and with them, myself. What passes for human has been buried in cloth and laid in the sand, and in this cocoon, I grow wings. Preface to Disassembling Sunlight. I am tired of poems about light that scatter it like rain, all airy and immaterial, devoid of presence, because I have known light to be rough and coarse, At the core, all light holds the essence of God. The air itself is really a swarm of blue, yellow, green, turquoise, and a million other ideas. In April, cruelest of months, I escaped the pull of tides and carried nothing of this place but a gem of light in my pockets. I understand what Turner meant when he said the sun is God, why he painted the sky in gold and rose. Only children think of the sky as blue. All beauty lives just beneath the surface. I've always seen beauty in broken things. God is in the dive. God is in the shitty wallpaper and the broken heart of a broken woman singing her song through a shitty jukebox. God is in the pisser. When you can't help but notice that guy pissing blood out the corner of your eyes. See, I could stare at shattered bottles for like 6 days. There's something about growing up in the shadow of America that makes me worship the concept of struggle, the struggle that burns calendars, the struggle of mornings. We get drunk, sing slave songs like dying was our field work. And then you see her. No makeup. She's gone off plastic bottle whiskey, served well, and she is present. I spent a few nights with your kind. That night we ducked out of your window, passing cigarettes and the bottle, looking down at Chicago. That was one of the best nights of my life. And I swear to God, if you played the right Elliott Smith album, I wouldn't mind falling. But it was Roman Candle. So I just sit here, breathing. Say being ugly is like playing life on hard mode. And there is handles of truth to this, and we go back to the concept of struggle. Being ugly builds so much character. I like arts chiseled by their own hand. What I'm saying is I see you, unpainted lady. You are honest. You know the void which I hold dearer than thick lips or wide hips. What I'm saying is I love you. And God knows I'm one. Here again. And the end comes like rain the same time every year. It's apocalypse season. The temptation is to talk about the end like a bedtime story, to trim out the blood and gore and pretend everything happens for a reason when really it just happens again and again. The truth is I've grown tired of the end of things. Flowers start dying the minute they begin to grow. This is the 5th end of the world I have lived through it with. And I've grown tired of the promise of new. These shiny things hurt my eyes. I have grown to hate the sun. I don't want this to be it. I just want this to be. Each time the clock passes 12, there is this enticing possibility of continuing. I like the 24-hour clock, the way 12 becomes 13 and everything goes on for a little bit longer. But here, I have grown numb and cold. I want the end to come like fireworks with the vague hint of fury and celebration. When the bar closes at the end of the universe, I want to be there at the lock-in, down the final drinks and say, we fucking made it. We are all here. It has been fucking great. I want to hear that cliche closing time song. Laugh at the mundanity of it all. That someone thought they were the first to think of it. I know that ends like this are false premises. But the next day we wake up with heads ringing and get back to living life waiting for the next end. It's the kindness that gives this all away. The way people buy pints for one another, hug strangers like brothers and stack chairs neatly for the barman. When the end comes, we will know it by the fear and greed. But our kindness seems to be keeping it at bay. Thank you.
Holy shit.
I can't believe I've never heard one before. Oh, for anyone that doesn't know, Connor is the technical mind behind every Sad Poets Doorstep Club since we went digital, and I've never heard you perform poetry. It's weird, but oh my fucking God.
I do a lot of helping other people do poetry.
You do, definitely. Gotta say though, Connor, that was absolutely worth waiting for. fucking beautiful. Oh, all the feels. All the feels. I'm going to say what I said to Laura. Bars. Fuck, that was brilliant. Right, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for yet another fantastic Sad Poets Doorstep Club. I have been your host. I am Anxious Anarchist Poetry on Facebook, @StuffPunks with an X. Do on Instagram. Poets, if you could, please drop your social media links and places we can buy your work on the Whiskey and Beards live stream, on the original post, not on like the one I've shared, so everyone can see who you are and buy your shit and all that stuff. People who have books coming out, Fay, me, Sven, buy them. Please, if you want, if you enjoyed, people. That would be cool. Thanks, guys. We're done.
And thank you, Tom.
Yeah,
For
thanks,
being
Tom.
excellent.
You don't have to thank me. It's all right. Thank you.
Anyway.
But I'm good. It's like I live for this, you know? I live for this shit. Oh, yeah, everyone check out Poeticon as well. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully, we're going to do some real, like, groundbreaking shit and maybe change some stuff.
Check out Ink Bomb.
And check out Ink Bomb. The editing on these poetry videos is insane. There's one about Sam Grudgings. There's one about Alex Velis. I'm getting one eventually when I can actually send my shit into Sven. And it's going to be awesome.
We'll be doing an open submission call soon as well. So
what he said. But yeah, like I'm not exaggerating when I say I've never seen editing on a poetry video this good. Like he's fucking excellent. I tried to say excellent and it went a different direction.
Oh. Can I risk the camera now without risking losing poem?
Connor, can we do a live stream? That might help with your bandwidth. Because we're done, so we can just